adopting the final budget for the City of West Jordan Redevelopment Agency for fiscal year 2017-2018. Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. As you see, all the redevelopment agencies and economic development agencies have listed their total assets, and we basically say this whole budget can be spent if possible, or if something comes up, but we usually don't know if there's going to be a project until mid-year or sometime else, and don't know how much that's going to be, so we basically say the whole budget, you can do the whole budget if you want to, or do none. In most years, we don't spend any.
Thank you. Questions from the board? I will now open the public hearing for item 3A. If you're here to speak on this item during the redevelopment agency meeting, now would be the opportunity. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and return to the council, or the board. Yeah, we need a motion. Board Member McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. I move to approve Resolution 190.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member McConaughey and a second by Board Member Anderson. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Board Member Newton.
Aye.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Burton.
Yes.
Chair Rolfe.
Yes.
Board Member Jacob.
Yes.
Board Member McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn the redevelopment agency meeting and convene the municipal building authority meeting. Board Member McConaughey.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member McConaughey, a second by Board Member Jacob. I call to order the Municipal Building Authority meeting. Business item 2A, approve the minutes of May 10th, 2017 as presented.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member McConaughey and a second by Board Member Newton. Discussion of the motion. Let's vote.
Board Member Jacob.
Yes.
Chair Rolfe.
Yes.
Board Member Burton.
Yes.
Board Member Newton.
Yes.
Board Member McConaughey.
Aye.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Item 3A, public hearing item, receive public comment and consider for approval resolution number 94, adopting final budget for the City of West Jordan Municipal Building Authority for the fiscal year 2017-2018. Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, as in the other account, the entire amount that's in the Municipal Building Authority, $1.1 million, is there for you to use during the year or not use, but the full amount is listed.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing for item 3A. If you're here to speak on this item, now would be the opportunity. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and return to the council for a motion. Board Member Newton.
Move that we approve Resolution 94 for the Municipal Building Authority.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Newton and a second by Board Member McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, we'll vote.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Jacob.
Yes.
Chair Rolfe.
Yes.
Board Member Burton.
Yes.
Board Member Newton.
Yes.
Board Member, excuse me, McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
We need a motion to adjourn the Municipal Building Authority meeting and convene the Fairway Estates Special Service Recreation District meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member McConaughey, a second by Board Member Newton. Discussion? Let's vote.
Board Member McConaughey.
Aye.
Board Member Newton.
Aye.
Board Member Burton.
Yes.
Chair Rolfe,
Yes.
Board Member Jacob,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
I call to order the Fairway Estates Special Service Recreation District meeting. Item 2A, public hearing item, receive public comment and consider for approval Resolution 17-108, adopting the final budget for the City of West Jordan, Fairway Estates Special Service Recreation District for fiscal year 2017-2018. Mark?
Okay, I have a little bit of confusion here. Which, is this the property tax? No. Or is this the public hearing for the budget? Okay, this is, again, similar to the building authority and the RDA. Here's the appropriate budget for the Fairway Estates operation.
Questions from the board? I'll now open the public hearing for item 2A. If you're here to speak on this item, now is the opportunity. Seeing no one, return to the council. Board Member McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. Move to approve Resolution 17-108.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member McConaughey, a second by Board Member Burton. Discussion to the motion? Let's vote.
Board Member Newton,
Aye.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member McConaughey,
Aye.
Board Member Jacob,
Yes.
Chair Rolfe,
Yes.
Board Member Burton.
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Business item 3A, approve the minutes of May 10, 2017 as presented.
So moved?
Second.
A motion by Board Member Burton and a second by Board Member McConaughey. Discussion of the motion? Let's vote.
Chair Rolfe,
Yes.
Board Member Burton,
Yes.
Board Member Newton,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member McConaughey,
Aye.
Board Member Jacob.
Yes.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
Business item 3B, approve resolution 17-109, setting the 2017 tax rate for the City of West Jordan Fairway Estates Special Service Recreation District. Eric or Mark?
Okay. This is, again, we typically don't receive the actual rate from the county until around this time frame of the year. So the resolution is worded to adopt it at a rate not to exceed the certified rate as established by the county, which it will be very close to generating the $10,087 that is associated with the budget. But within likely a day or two, we'll know what that amount is that we'll move forward with.
Board Member McConaughey.
Thank you, Chair. I move to adopt Resolution 17-109, setting the 2017 property tax rate at a rate not to exceed the certified rate to be determined by Salt Lake County.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member McConaughey, second by Board Member Burton. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Burton,
Yes.
Board Member Newton,
Yes.
Chair Rolfe,
Yes.
Board Member Jacob,
Yes.
Board Member McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
We need a motion to adjourn the Fairway Estates Special Service Recreation District meeting. Board Member McConaughey.
Move to adjourn and convene the City Council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member McConaughey and a second by Board Member Anderson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes carry it. I call to order the City Council meeting of June 14, 2017. The first item will be a pledge of allegiance, and that will be led by Ty Nielsen.
Please repeat after me, all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. For those in the audience that don't know, Ty is our arborist and forester for the city of West Jordan. We have several presentations tonight, so I'm going to read the list, and then if the council will go down from the dais, that would be great. First, we have a presentation from the Utah State Forester regarding Tree City, Utah for West Jordan. Then we will have a badge pinning for promotion of Joy Stearns as fire captain. And then we have an oath of office and badge pinning for firefighter Jacob Sorensen. Then a presentation by Brad Barker, West Jordan Exchange Club, awarding a firefighter, a police officer, and a crossing guard of the year. And then we'll have a presentation by Nathan Gedge, chairman of the Western Stampede, an introduction of the royalty. So if the council will step down.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. As you folks know, we suffered a lot of vandalism last year along 2200 West with the different trees. 81 trees were vandalized, 35 in which had to be removed due to the extensive damage and corrective pruning taken on the remaining trees that could stay. Ty Nielsen, our urban forester, applied for the community forestry grant through the State Forester Office. The city was awarded the full amount of $8,000, which covered the amount to replace the 35 trees, which took place last fall. I'd like to now turn the time over to Jaron Farley. He's the state coordinator for the State Forester's Office, which his duties include administration of the grant. He'll present the check and go over the grant. Thank you.
Yes, I've known Ty for a lot of years actually, and I was really excited that he applied for this grant because the cause that he applied for was definitely worthy of this grant, and the committee who approves these grants unanimously chose West Jordan as a recipient for the $8,000 grant. This is a community forestry partnership grant, and every year we have about 15 communities throughout the state apply for that, and depending on the amount of funding we have for the year, a certain amount of cities is awarded this grant. And in order to be able to even apply for this grant, a city has to be a Tree City USA, which West Jordan has been a Tree City USA for 21 years, which is fantastic, which shows the dedication that West Jordan has to trees. And so this Urban and Community Forestry Grant, it's a matching grant, which means that the city of West Jordan also contributed a match, whether it be cash or volunteer or actual labor hours. So we just want to, from the state of Utah, commend West Jordan for being who you are and valuing trees in your community. It's a wonderful thing. And for Ty, for all that he does for the cause of trees in the state of Utah. And this funding source is from the U.S. Forest Service, and then it's distributed through the state of Utah. And I am the Urban and Community Forestry Coordinator for the state. So at this time, I will present this check to Ty Nielsen for $8,000. Thank you.
I'm going to face the audience if that's okay, Mayor and Council. Let me start out by first thanking our Mayor, our City Council, our City Manager, Mr. Payas, for giving us the opportunity to be here to recognize some of our fire employees. We were here a couple of meetings ago and done recognitions for our promotions, but we had a few people that couldn't make it, so we're going to get those taken care of today. So this is how we'll go through the program. First, we'll do a badge pinning for Joey Stearns. Then we'll have a swearing in for our city recorder for Jacob Sorensen. And then I want to take some time to introduce our two newest civilian employees, Taryn Bowen and Woody Smith. So with that, if I could ask our command staff to come up and line up on this side. And then if I could have Joy and her father, Casey's going to pin her badge on. If they come stand here. And Mr. Bailish, if you could come with me to present this certificate. So, Joy Stearns. Joy has been an active member of the West Jordan Fire Department for over 15 years. She started out as a firefighter, was promoted to paramedic in 2009. Throughout her career, Joy is certified in both heavy rescue and hazardous material. She has participated in the Health and Safety Committee for our department. She's on the peer support team and is a medical preceptor, which has her evaluating the knowledge and skills of our fellow EMTs and paramedics as they come out of school. She recently completed her master's degree in health promotion and education at the University of Utah. As part of her degree, she put together a resilience program to help build and strengthen firefighters' mental health and introduce the program to her fellow firefighters. The program has been a huge success and is now being looked at as a resource for other fire agencies across the state. Joy's also taken advantage of various leadership opportunities and courses over the years and looks forward to applying the knowledge in her new position as captain. And tonight, Casey Bowen, her father, will pin her badge on. A couple other things about Joy you might have saw. There was a story done by local news, Channel 2, I believe. There's another significant thing that's deserving of recognition tonight. And Joy is the first female fire captain in our 40-year history of the West Jordan Fire Department. We had over 15 people that participated in the promotional exam. And I can promise you there was outside evaluators, inside evaluators, but there was no preferential treatment because we wanted to have Joy be a fire captain. Joy was awesome and earned every bit of it. And I also like to say that I had the opportunity and I hope I played some role, and I'm going to say I did, but when Joy was hired in 2002, I was the training officer at that time. And Joy came on, and there was actually another a female recruit that we had that withdrew from the training, but Joy hung in there. I believe there was 3 other people in her class, and she done an outstanding job and pulled her own weight, done everything that she was asked to do, and it's an honor to have you promoted as a captain, Joy. And so, Casey, you would do the honor. All right, as Joy's walking back, I'll ask Jacob Sorensen and his wife, Kia, to come up. I probably butchered it. I said I would. So what we'll do is I will read Jacob's bio, and then I'll ask our city recorder to administer the oath of office, and we'll present him with his certificate. Jacob is our newest employee as far as completing probation. We hire folks, and they're required to do a 1-year probation, and after they've successfully completed that, we bring them here and introduce them and do their badge pinning. Jacob's desire to become a firefighter started in 2012 when he moved to the city of Minden, Utah. The fire chief of Minden approached Jake and asked if he'd be interested in volunteering with the city as a firefighter. He thought this would be an awesome opportunity and quickly volunteered. He decided to seek out becoming a full-time firefighter in 2014 after returning from an Army combat deployment in Afghanistan as a helicopter medical evacuation unit. While he was deployed, he saw what kind of effect he could have on an individual in the emergency response field. Jake has received a few awards from the National Guard for state emergencies. He received the Utah State Emergency Service Ribbon for supporting flood relief in Weber County in 2010, and a Utah Achievement Ribbon for a hoisting rescue for some lost and stranded soldiers from a mountainside in 2016 while they were trying to outrun a lightning storm. He has accomplished all these things with his loving wife, Kia, at his side. Jake and Kia are expecting their first child, a little girl, this August, and they're both very excited. Jake enjoys hunting, fishing, and just about every other great outdoors activity. One of his favorite activities is to take his wife out to a movie and ice cream, even though his wife picks the movie. And his wife will pin his badge on tonight. All right, if I can have Taryn Bowen and Thomas Smith, or Woody as we call him, come up. A little background on how we obtained these two individuals. In our fire department, we have needs for logistics officers, and also we need help with fire prevention, public education. And as I worked in trying to increase staffing, one, to help our Fire Prevention Bureau, but also realign what type of employee we had doing logistics work. We worked out that through retirements, we eliminated a captain's position, which enabled us to hire 2 full-time employees. And this is Taryn and his daughter, who wants to be up here, and that's good. And Woody. Taryn handles our logistics. He's our fire service officer for logistics. He oversees the department's fleet, emergency apparatus, and support vehicles, maintains a large inventory of needed medical supplies and fire equipment, as well as taking care of the numerous logistical details to help the department run smoothly. He also provides support to the prevention fire service officer, which is Woody, and assisting with inspections and presentations. Taryn became a firefighter in 2012 and worked as a volunteer firefighter in Cedar Fort, and is currently a part-time firefighter with the Unified Fire Authority. He's a second-generation firefighter. His father was with the South Jordan Fire Department for a number of years. His goal is to become a firefighter. Taryn has been married to his wife, Callie, for 7 years. They have 2 daughters, Ellie, which I think we just all met. Or no, not Ellie. Riley, who is 18 months. His hobbies include hunting, trapping, and all types of metal work, including forging his own knife blades. Bones live in West Valley, but Taryn grew up in West Jordan and considers it his home. So that's Taryn. Woody Smith. Woody handles our prevention and public education. He's picked up and helps teach our merit badge classes for Boy Scouts. He does CPR inspections, and then he also backs up Woody, and they've both done an outstanding job in the 6 months that they've been here. So Woody was hired in 2016 as a fire service officer for the Fire Prevention Bureau. His duties include business license inspections, public presentations of fire safety, merit badge counselor for merit badge classes. and creating fire prevention programs as well as assisting and supporting the logistics fire service officer. Woody has been a certified firefighter since 2013 and has served or is serving with the Brigham City Fire Department and South Ogden District and the Unified Fire Authority. During his training at the Utah Fire and Rescue Academy, he was selected to be an intern, and guess which agency he interned for? West Jordan Fire Department. Woody also completed his bachelor's degree in 2016 at Utah Valley University in emergency services. He ultimately would like to become a full-time firefighter. Woody lives in Bountiful with his wife of a year and a half, Elaine, and they recently purchased their first home. He enjoys hunting, watching college football when there's time, and the other interesting fact is Woody is also the son of a West Jordan K-9 officer, Tom Smith. So I want to introduce both of these individuals. They do a great job. As you can hear from their bios, their ultimate goal is to be firefighters. Luckily, we have the opportunity to work with them now, and there's probably in the future of their time that they'll transition into being a firefighter, but we want to keep them as long as we can doing what they're doing because you both do a great job. So thank you. And that's all I have tonight, Mayor and Council. I appreciate it. And I will now, for the next part of the agenda, the West Jordan Exchange Club is going to make some presentations, and I would invite Brad Barker, the current president of the Exchange Club, to come up.
The Exchange Club is a national organization, and West Jordan has a club, the local club, and they nominate a firefighter, a police officer, and crossing guard by their peers. And the West Jordan Exchange Club is going to present a plaque to them in recognition of this. I would like to invite those that are going to receive that to come up here, and we'll read their bio, but I'd also like to invite all of those members of the West Jordan Exchange Club to come up here as we do this. And you can see that there's a lot of people in your community that you may not realize that they're also members of the Exchange Club. Doug? We're grateful for all the support that we have, and we would like to invite Captain Joyce Stearns to come up here, and Sergeant Travis Brower, and Angela Westerman. Okay. This memo is to nominate Sergeant Travis Brower of the West Jordan Police Department as the Exchange Club Officer of the Year. Sergeant Brower is being nominated for his outstanding performance in supervising the Investigations Property Crimes Unit. Travis has been instrumental in making improvements in the investigative capability of this unit and has been instrumental in increasing their productivity. Sergeant Brower recently was assigned to supervise the Property Crimes Unit. Historically, this unit has been very active in its approach, and while they were effective at investigating and arresting criminals after the crime had been committed, the unit lacked a proactive element. As a 20-year-plus law enforcement veteran, Travis recognized the value of adding a proactive element to this unit. Travis set a goal of maintaining the unit's investigative effectiveness while adding an element of proactive enforcement to their approach. Travis has worked hard to provide the detectives he supervises the tools and the training to identify the criminals operating within our community who are regularly committing burglaries, thefts, auto thefts, and other property offenses. Travis regularly receives letters of appreciation and thanks from citizens regarding the work he has done on their cases. Sergeant Brower was instrumental in outfitting the Property Crimes Unit with state-of-the-art GPS tracking technology designed to track stolen property, and is the department liaison with VECC and several financial institutions that utilize similar technology to track money in the event that it is taken in a robbery. Sergeant Brower leads from the front by example, and is an outstanding mentor to his subordinates. Travis has taken the Property Crimes Unit to the next level by incorporating hard work, technology, outside-the-box thinking, and solid leadership to more effectively target criminals in West Jordan City. And from Deputy Chief Richard Davis, he is proud to recommend Sergeant Brower for this award and appreciates our consideration. Captain Joy Stearns is the West Jordan Fire Department's Exchange Club Firefighter of the Year. Joy was West Jordan Firefighter of the Year for 2016 and has recently been promoted to captain. She received Firefighter of the Year for her dedication and hard work to the department and to improving the lives of others. She has a high level of respect amongst her peers and is hardworking and always eager to take on the tough jobs. Captain Stearns continually works to improve herself and influence others to do the same. She recently completed her master's degree in health promotion and education at the University of Utah. As part of her degree, she put together a resilience program to build and strengthen firefighters' mental health and introduce the program to the firefighters in the West Jordan Department. The program has been successful and is now being looked at as a resource for other fire agencies across the state. I'd like to recognize Angela Westerman as the Crossing Guard of the Year, who I will probably present this in one of our club meetings, but we'll read her bio. Angela has been a guard for 14 years. She is a guard that can always be depended on to do her job well and with great pride. She's always ready to work no matter what the weather or struggles that come her way. Her supervisor wants her to know that she appreciates her dedication and commitment to the children and the community. And thank you very much for your consideration and for the club and support and for the city council support. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm here on behalf of the Western Stampede Committee, to invite you and the rest of the city of West Jordan to our 2017 Western Stampede Rodeo events, Saturday, July 1st, Monday, July 3rd, and Tuesday, July 4th at the West Jordan Rodeo Arena. We are briskly selling tickets, and get your tickets now or they'll be gone in the next 2 weeks. Also, if you would like to be involved on the city committee, the Stampede Committee, please feel free to join us here tomorrow night at 5:30 in the community room and see what it's like to prepare a city event. We also want to thank the city, on behalf of the committee, the city staff of Brian, Ashley, Brooke, and Kim Wells for their support in helping us plan this event. But that's enough. I know you guys didn't come here to look at me, so I'd like to introduce our 2017 Western Stampede royalty, the true eye candy of the rodeo. So our 2017 queen is Grace Green of West Jordan. Our first attendant is Lindsay Peterson, and our second attendant is Savannah Ogden. We'd like to invite them to come up and get their picture with the council. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks.
We will move now to communications. City Manager?
Only one item, Mayor. If you notice on the outside of the City Hall, we're doing a facelift. In the past, they've hired contractors to do that at considerable expense, but this year, for a very minimum cost, the city staff by Brian Clegg and his staff are be doing it in the next couple of weeks, and it should make the outside of City Hall look a lot more presentable.
Great, thanks. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor, and it's once again a pleasure to indicate to the council, the community, that we had another jury trial last Friday. We obtained another conviction through the assistance of the officers with the West Jordan Police Department, Tara Hansen and Marisha Manzano. Judge Coons has ordered a pre-sentence report. We'll be sentencing in the matter in early August. I believe this may bring our total of jury trials up to almost a dozen in this year alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray?
I have nothing for this evening.
Ryan Clegg?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder, as you heard Nate, we're gearing up for the West Jordan Stampede. Busily, event staff busily getting everything ready. We invite you guys to come out and enjoy the fun. It's going to be huge, so we invite you guys out. Thank you.
Bill?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Wendell Rigby?
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Chief McElreath?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I would like to just let you know, this afternoon I went over to Jordan Valley Hospital and they received their gold level certificate for stroke care. The hospital continues to invest in different treatments for different things, and this is just another great resource for the community, and very few in the nation. They'll get national recognition for achieving this goal, and the presenter made a point that the different categories had to be reached at an 85% level. The hospital reached over 100% in almost all categories. So that's a great resource for our community that they have that designation now. That's all.
Chief Diamond?
Nothing from me tonight, Mayor.
Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have to report is I did had a constituent Cub Scout group come and tour City Hall today, so I took them around for that. Mostly the last couple of weeks I've read 282 pages of budget here and another, 50 pages at work. So I'm about numbered out. I had some constituent contacts about trees on 40th West. I had constituents talk about some lights and overhangs, which I haven't got with Brian on yet, and also just with all the construction on 90th and 70th. It's been busy and a lot of responding to constituents, and that's my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Jacob?
Thank you, Mayor. I know Captain Stearns stepped out, I think, to take pictures with the family, or maybe they were just done. But I wanted to say how cool that was for us to welcome our first female fire captain to our city. I did a little research after seeing that news story the other night, and it turns out that depending on which report you believe, only 3 to 7 or 8% of firefighters in the U.S. are female. And I dare say that the percentage that are captains are much, much lower than that. So I think it's really awesome that we have a female fire captain for our largest fire station right here in West Jordan. I think it's awesome. Thanks.
Councilmember Newton? Nothing. Councilmember Burton?
I want to compliment the staff on another fine Memorial Day celebration. Thank you for putting that together for us. It was very enjoyable and appropriate. Also, I did have an opportunity to attend the UTA's Training 101, and at that meeting, I got to drive a tracks train, and I did effective. I didn't crash anything. Also at that meeting, they're talking about the growth in the Salt Lake Valley. They say in 2050, they expect the population to double. So hold on, those trains will have to drive even faster. And then I'm looking forward to our Western Stampede coming up the first part of July. I hope to see you there.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Nothing tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
We'll move now to citizens' comments. I have one signed up to speak this evening. As a reminder, you're allowed 3 minutes on the topic of your choice.
She wants to wait till the budget.
Okay, you'd like to wait till 7B? Okay. Anyone else wishing to, please?
Council, Mayor, thank you. I'm Stephanie Wright, and I live at 9128 South Wind River Circle, which is 4030 West. I've been a resident, pardon me, of West Jordan for over 20 years. And the subdivision that I reside in, which is Wind River Estates, had some nice trees planted along 40th West from about 4100 South down right along 90th. And over the years, the trees have either died, cut down, been hit by cars, numerous things. And I'm just really concerned that we're not going to have the ability to have these replaced. I've spoken with several city council members over the years about getting it replaced. To my understanding, there's not a water line there. For the first year, the developer had an agreement with some of the homes in my subdivision that the water would be supplied by us. We did that for a year. After that, we stopped. There's no water running to that area right now, so that is why the trees are dying. They don't look very pleasant. Dirk's been past it. Alan has both been past it. I would just like to propose that we do something to keep the streetscape looking nice. As a Tree City USA, I think it's very important that we keep our trees looking good. I understand that it's $113,400 to replace that area, the landscaping, and make it look better. Is there a way in the budget for this upcoming year that we can get at least the water line ran, so that we can get something supplied, and next year we can look at getting some trees or some drought-tolerant plants there? I am willing to put the hard work, elbow grease into helping. I'll get my neighbors to come out and help, but 40th West needs to look a little more pleasant. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak during citizen comments? Please, for the record, state your name and address.
My name is Rick Lilloy. I'm the Vice President of Operations of the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce. I'm speaking in regards to the contract for the upcoming fiscal year. Later on, it'll be discussed. The West Jordan Chamber of Commerce is actively engaged in promoting the interests of the business community in the West Jordan City. The Chamber supports successful economic development through connecting business leaders to potential customers, partners, the local workforce, government officials, and other community leaders. Our staff and volunteers coordinate and attend an average of 24 meetings per month, including committee meetings, networking events, ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, corporate educational workshops, and special events. These special events include our annual gala, where we presented the mayor with a check that represented over $55,000 worth of volunteer hours that the Chamber organized on behalf of the business community in the city of West Jordan. The Chamber also coordinated an economic development summit that brought over 75 contractors, developers, and suppliers in to hear about the opportunities that West Jordan City has on the horizon. We are now expanding our special events to include a luncheon on June 29th that will open the lines of communication between city government and local business leaders in an effort to promote goodwill and mutual support. That event is open to all West Jordan businesses, not just Chamber members. We are also adding a major health fair on September 26th that will not only allow West Jordan citizens to receive much-needed health screenings for free, but will also promote West Jordan businesses in the health and fitness industry. The West Jordan Chamber is currently the #1 chamber in the state for social media engagement. That includes Salt Lake Chamber, and we host more events than any other chamber in the valley. We have established multiple collaborations with other chambers throughout the valley in order to offer our members the highest value possible. Several business leaders have told us that the West Jordan Chamber has more to offer than any other chamber in the valley. You can view some of the high-profile endorsements on our website. We hope to continue adding more services that boost the local economy and position West Jordan as a leader in the community. Thank you for your continued support of these important economic development issues.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
Mayor Rolfe and Councilman, I really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you today regarding a situation on Sugar Factory Road by 2200 West. That property has been quite an eyesore. Not only an eyesore, but a fire hazard. Could you please put up a picture of what it looked like a year ago?
Mayor, personal privilege?
That would be okay.
May I just intervene? The concern I have is we're introducing something to our computer system that we haven't reviewed, and for security purposes, we've been asked to prevent any thumb drives from being introduced directly into our system. So I don't know if that's where it's come from, but I don't know the nature of what it is you're trying to show.
It is some pictures, but it'll be coming from Councilman McConaughey's personal computer, then into our system. Does that make a difference?
We trust him a little more.
Thank you. So we have a couple of pictures that she has taken that we could put up if that's agreeable.
If that's okay with Councilmember McConaughey, we can do it.
It'd be Sugar Factory 1.
This property is on the south side of the UTA wall, and it has not been tended during last year, and it looked very bad. You can see how tall the weeds are, 4-foot-high Russian thistle right against the wall. This other is weeds and grass that is dead and laying there. As I said, as a fire hazard, it could be, but it's just not very pleasant to look at. What we would like to propose is that money be allotted to improve this property, and we want to recognize what has been done this year, and so grateful for that. Trucks came in and sprayed the weeds out when they were dead. It was mowed, and I understand now that it has just been trimmed all along that wall. Hopefully something beautiful can be brought in to make that a thing that will be a credit to West Jordan. And I live at the senior housing development down there that looks at that wall every day. It's quite depressing, to say the least. But it would really be a wonderful thing to have that improved. I have some pictures of an area on 70th South and 22 West.
Number 4.
This is the weeds that you're seeing. This is a home, and that's what they have done with rocks and little plantings that was there. Those sort of things could be implemented to make that area a beautiful thing. This is part of the city block, the huge block that belongs to the city, the Veterans Park, our building here, the library, and this could be a beautiful addition to that city. Thank you so much. I appreciate your consideration about this.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I didn't catch her name from my notes.
Ramona Wilson. Yeah, he was asking, you probably didn't hear it, but he was asking your name, so I was just giving it to him. Thank you. Seeing no one else, we will move now to the consent calendar items. I would like to pull item S.
Mayor, I'd like to pull item P as in Paul.
P.
Mayor, I'd like to have a personal privilege for item 6B, if I may.
That would be appropriate.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to meet with Altair Kaminsky, who is here tonight, if you want to stand for just a moment. And she has applied to volunteer to be on our sustainability committee, and I've met with her, and I think she'll bring some great insight to our sustainability committee. And she wanted to come tonight, and I invited her to be here so that I could introduce all of you to her and look forward to her being on the sustainability committee. And I appreciate the privilege. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. A motion would be in order. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve all consent items with the exception as P as in Papa and S as in Sierra.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Newton. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Aye.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
I know we have a very long night tonight, so typically we would move these to the end of the business items, but we will march on down the agenda. So, Councilmember Burton, you had item P pulled. Approved Resolution 17-104, authorizing the mayor to execute the membership and service agreement between the City of West Jordan and the West Jordan Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mayor. This is where the Chamber of Commerce is asking for payment in lieu of for services that they provide for the City of West Jordan. A couple of years ago, they were getting paid a larger amount. We were paying them $65,000. Then we lowered that because, well, they were going through some difficult times and they weren't accomplished as much as they had in the past. I think with some of the changes they've made in leadership and other positions, I believe that they are excelling where they have in the last couple of years, and I think that they are worthy to go back up to the amount that we were paying them before, which is an increase of $17,000 above what is listed on this.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas I don't necessarily disagree, the value of the chamber, having served on the chamber board for the last year and a half, I've enjoyed understanding what it is that they do and the value that they do bring to the community and can bring to the community. That said, though, we have it in the budget at $48,000. So do you have a corresponding discussion when the budget comes up as far as where that's going to come from? Thanks.
I was going to bring that up during our budget time, and we'll need to work that into there as well. So, yes is the answer to that question.
Councilmember Jacob.
Mayor, in that case, I would like to table this item until after the budget public hearing so that we can make sure that we're not, there's several of us up here who are going to have ideas of where to pull and move money around in the budget. Make sure we're not pulling two hairs out of the same head, if I may. Hey, I got to use the analogy where I can.
Anyone opposed to having this tabled?
I would oppose that. I would like to go ahead and pass it the way it is, and then if we need to adjust it with the budget, we could do so. And that could work both ways. We could keep it the level it is now, then adjust it up if we can work into the budget, or we can put it on this one, then we could adjust it down if necessary when we do the budget. So I would like to keep that on there so that we don't have to bring it back.
That's what I would prefer as well, to pass it as it is, and then if we make a change during the budget talks, we can add that change later.
I'll second that.
I made that a motion. So we have a motion by Mayor Rolfe and a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Just clarification on which amount is in the motion. Thanks.
the amount in the,
48?
the 48,000. Councilmember Anderson?
No, that answered my question. Thank you.
Let's vote.
Sorry. Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Consent item S. I had this pulled for discussion. Approve Resolution 17-112, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the Train Building Services for installation of a new HVAC equipment at the animal shelter in an amount not to exceed $98,955,000. And I pulled this. I was given a contract to sign a few days ago. And I figured we were talking less than the 20,000 the city manager authorized, and I looked at the amount. I almost signed it, but I looked at the amount and had it pulled and put on the agenda. So, Wendell, this is your item. Could you explain, please, or Jim?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Several months ago, we hired a mechanical engineering firm to go out and do an evaluation at the animal shelter because the HVAC equipment out there is no longer operable. When it was designed and built, there was an evap cooler that was installed up in the attic area, and that evap cooler is what cooled the kennel area. That has now failed. It was causing rust in all the metal parts up there in the ceiling. Mold was beginning to grow, and it was leaking. And so it just needed to come out of there. We had this mechanical engineer go out and do an evaluation of revamping that entire system out there at the animal shelter. He came back with a plan of what we needed to do, and we put out some bids, which came back to be about $350,000. We felt that was excessive for what needed to happen out there. Train Building Services, who was one of the people that we communicated with, said they could, because they were on state contract, could come in and basically, for lack of a better word, do a really good Band-Aid on this. And take out that evap cooler, put an air handler in there, put a condensing unit outside, and give those animals the cooling they needed. The cooling inside the building where the people are is functional and works fine. It's outside, it's in the building, but it's outside the human area. So we had them do that with the understanding that because they were on state contract, we wouldn't have to take that out to bid.
How many square feet is that building? This just seems like an exorbitant amount of money for an air conditioning system.
You know, and that's, I'm not sure what the square footage of that building is, but I can get that looked up and get that back to you and the council tomorrow.
Councilmember Newton.
So there was no bid at this point then, other than?
Not for the work that they were going to do, because when the original bids came back at $350,000, we said that's not going to work for us right now. We didn't have the funding to do it. So I had enough money to do this, $98,000. So, and because they were on state contract, when vendors are on state contract, we typically don't go out to bid to others, but we certainly can do that. The bidding climate right now is not the best either. I think we all understand that.
I just wonder if there isn't some other way of doing it, because that does seem excessive to me as well. You know, some of the systems like they put in the big tents when they do special events, you know, just a unit that blows into that area. So it's just that open area, the kennel area, correct?
It's the kennel area, correct.
I would suggest we look at having some other RFPs. lost me. I'm back. That we look at a different way of doing it, because that just seems way out of line from my point of view, but maybe I've been away from the building stuff too long.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim, I appreciate this, but do you know what tonnage of air we need to move in that kennel area?
It's on the document. I don't have the document in front of me, but it's on the document.
Okay.
It should, and I think it's in your packet, should be attached in the packet. It tells about that.
Yeah, I didn't see it, and I don't know if that's because it was a late edition or I don't have a page
It was
number.
placed on the agenda because the contract came before me.
Right, but the supporting documentation. And what it was right now is we had evaporative cooling in there now, and we're going to replace it with AC.
Correct. We actually, because the evaporative cooler that's in the attic does not work, we brought in 2 portable evac coolers that are just sitting in the kennel area now. So it's recirculating the air inside the kennel area, but it's trying to cool that as well. So
yeah, and do you know if this includes, I mean, obviously it sounds like it would include new ductwork.
Yes.
So it's ducting. Do you know if it has the boxes so that it can route the air to different areas, or is it just one big?
it's all the ducting that's necessary for in there. They've gone and designed what they needed to do in there. So it's an air handler, the ducting, and a condensing unit outside.
And does it work with the heating system? I assume the heating system is already in there, a furnace or something, so does that combine them together, or is it heating one system and then now air conditioning a second system?
They had again, they were inefficient heating units that were in the ducting work that was up there in the attic that were not very functional. They've been repaired many times over the years. So the intent of this is then to have like a heat pump system, so that heat will continually be forced through the system in the wintertime and then cooling through in the summertime.
Okay, that's all the questions I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Newton.
I would suggest that we put out an RFP to have contracts to put in a system there that would bring it to the temperatures that they're supposed to be, and let's see what kind of bids we get back, because I feel like this is probably too high. So is that a possibility?
Anything's possible. Yes, we can do that. We can put out an RFP.
I would make that a motion.
I'll second that. So we have a motion by Councilmember Newton and a second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just the way this is going, probably with the RFPs and opening and getting construction done, it probably bypasses summer. But is this alternative option suitable for the animals right now? Are they?
That's a really good question. And we don't have somebody here from the animal shelter, I don't think, do we, Chief? Unless he would like to address that.
Mayor and Council, I know that this has been an issue. We are working with the portable evaporative coolers that we have in there, that we're able to maintain that. Again, it depends on how hot it gets over this summer as to what kind of problems we're going to have with that. We do need to maintain that temperature, and I don't know the exact temperature that we need to maintain for the environment in there. But we do need to keep that below the average outside temperature here during the summer, so that we are protecting those animals back there. And if you've been there, it's not just the open kennel area where we keep most of the pets or most of the dogs, but it's also, I believe, the cat areas that are a little bit more enclosed, that have a little bit more circulation issue in those 2 rooms. Plus trying to keep out in an evaporative system any diseases that get into that system get promulgated rather than having an air conditioning system. So there's kind of 2 issues that we're trying to work on there and get this. We do need to find a solution, but I'm sure if we can get it out for bid, we can do that hopefully relatively soon and get working on it pretty quick here.
And you know, I don't have a pet, So I'm going off of what I know, or what little I know. But dogs, they cool themselves by sticking their tongue out.
Panting.
And, so have we communicated with the Humane Society or some professional group to know what kind of humidity needs to be in there, or what kind of?
Our staff knows that and has that information.
Okay, and were they involved with, like any kind of humidifiers that are going to occur with this, so that it's meets what the animals need?
Well, throughout all this process, they were consulted.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been working with Jim on this.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Councilmember Newton?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-1.
Item 7A, public hearing item, receive public input and consider for adoption of the Redwood Road Streetscape Study, City of West Jordan applicant. Ray, is this one yours?
Mayor and members of the council, the City of West Jordan has, the general plan contains a number of goals and policies that are geared specifically towards the making improvements along Redwood Road to enhance the appearance of the street, make it more attractive to businesses, and then make a statement that you're in West Jordan. As you may recall, back in March of this year, we brought this study to you as a business item, and at that time, the consultants, MGB, and Fair and Peers, did a fairly detailed presentation to orient you and familiarize you with the purposes of the study. And they also walked you through some of the recommendations of the plan, and they looked at ways to look at the plan just to improve the look and the feel of Redwood Road through the city. So we brought this to you as a business item, and just to make sure that we're headed in the right direction. And then from that point, at that meeting, the city council had recommended or asked that we take it back to the planning commission, have them take a look at it, and then make a recommendation back to you for final adoption of the plan. So we did that on May 2nd of this year. The Planning Commission took a look at it and made a recommendation that the City Council approved the plan as presented. We've got Jay Ballwinkle and Dan Sontag. They're here from MGB&A just to briefly go over the plan, just to refresh your memory. And then just go over some rough cost estimates and potential funding sources. So as they're going through this, just please keep in mind that this is just a starting point. So there's a lot of work ahead of us. We need to come up with some funding for it, and then also some phasing plans before we get into doing it. So with that, I'll just turn it over to Jay and just let him walk you through the plan.
Thank you, Ray. It's nice to be with you, Mayor, City Council. It's been wonderful working in your community. We've done quite a few projects over the years with West Jordan, the City of West Jordan. So let me just go through and reorient you to what we planned. City of West Jordan has this major street, Redwood Road, going through it, and it cuts the city in half as far as pedestrian access goes. So we were tasked with how to make this road a little more pedestrian friendly. So we proposed medians, streetscape improvements, and whatnot. We'll go through a few slides here to show some of the things we came up with. We did have public meetings. We reviewed the plan. Ray was great help on going through it, but we've got a lot of input and came up with these recommendations between us and Fair and Peers. So let's go to the next slide. Who's running this show?
I guess I am.
Oh, can I do it right here? Oh, perfect. I'm on it. Here's the goals we were working with. Safety and functionality obviously are big. Pedestrian environment. A lot of times the sidewalk is right next to the road. It's pretty scary. You're walking next to 45-mile-an-hour traffic, 56. You know, it's scary. So pedestrian environment, how do you cross, even at intersections. Aesthetics, the corridor, more street trees, the divided median with landscape in appropriate places. Just making it a street that's welcoming. We've done this with a lot of big streets. We did North Temple Tract. We've done Grant Avenue, State Street in some areas. And I'll tell you, it makes a big difference and helps with economic development. That's the last one there. State Street, we did Murray State Street. After we were done, all the buildings were filled with businesses. It really is a great economic development tool, improving streets, and it would be a wonderful thing to happen here. Here's some of the recommendations we had. You can kind of see where all the median breaks are and the shoulder landscaping and improvements. We moved the sidewalk back and have the lights and trees and whatnot protecting the pedestrians, and then having the medians. All this will slow traffic down to the speed limit, which is nice, but we still maintain the 3 lanes of traffic going both ways. That's one thing we reviewed with UDOT. They didn't want to give up the 3 lanes, and it is needed because it is a major road going through the city. So you can see some of the things that we were working with. We worked with UDOT, UTA, and the city's traffic and planning folks to go through the process. Here's essentially the same street cross section. We're just adding median, and then we would do work outside of the curb that's existing, adding improvements there. And as you're thinking about West Jordan or the Red Road, there's a lot of areas that are constrained, especially in the residential zone. So those areas probably wouldn't get the full treatment. Maybe have to phase it in as residential changes into different uses, but definitely in the commercial areas around each of the major intersections. I think this full intersection, it would really help redevelop potentially some of the 70th, 78th, 90th South major intersections. And this is the general cross section we were proposing. The intersections, we call those gateway areas. We do little extras, have some vertical elements there. Improve the intersections with concrete and different changes. That makes the drivers as you're going through be a little more aware there's pedestrians coming, and pedestrians more willing to take that risk because there's a little more reasons to slow traffic down and whatnot. So we do that with these couple of things. You can see that a little bit every aerial view of the intersections and some of the aerial. This is the area right in front of the City Hall, which might be a phase 1 if that's the direction y'all want to go. We broke it up, and Mayor, last time we talked, you wanted to have some funding, and so what we did was we took the whole corridor, and for each of these colors, the colors are yellow. Essentially, the colors are in residential zones, and you can do medians in those areas fairly easily, but the sidewalk you have to just kind of take with what you got because some of the residents are very close to the sidewalk in those areas. The areas in blue are the major intersections I was talking about, and those areas have a lot more flexibility because they're in the commercial zones, and most of the buildings are set back with areas to do some things. So it kind of shows you in the number about what each of those areas would be, what would cost, and what it is generally, if UDOT really wants to eliminate as many curb cuts as possible, so if a business has 2, they'd consolidate those. We did this project in Taylorsville for their commercial center there, 53rd South, between 53rd and I-215. We probably took out half the driveways, and they're able to share with their neighbors and do some things. It didn't really limit their access, just provided less driveways. That was one of the things that we have in here. Upgrade the sidewalk, obviously, add street trees, add medians, and then the improvements we showed on intersections. Essentially, that's what all these end up being with, for a grand total of around 20-25 million. And that number can be adjusted easily. If you wanted to not do as much, some of the things, whatever, we can phase into this, there's weight, and then we can also do parts and wait for parts down the road. But essentially, if you want to do the whole thing from one edge of the city to the other, it's around 23, 24, 25 million, somewhere in that range. So, any questions? That's essentially our presentation. I do have a funding slide. Let me go to the last slide here. So, you've actually reviewed some of the ideas that we had with some of the things you've done in the city. There's project areas that you can do. I mean, we were wondering about doing the whole Redwood Road corridor as an RDA. It's one way you can get. I'm telling you, other streets who've done this, it does spur economic development, and through the changes you do, especially in those commercial areas, could help. Especially the one that's right here on 7800 South. It could spur some more economic development and pay for it with some TIF funding. Improvement districts. I heard you talking about one here. I have a business downtown. We actually pay into an improvement district similar to this, where you can actually tax the people along this corridor, and they can pay a certain amount. That's another opportunity for an improvement district. UDOT was pretty excited about this, and when you take driveways out, we can apply for funding through UDOT because they really like this. They do have sidewalk improvement programs also. We use some of those funds on North Temple tracks. So there's some opportunities at UDOT. UTA was interested in the bus situation. It's not a huge number, but they would be interested in the pullouts and the bus stop areas. There's 2 of those at each big intersection. And then, of course, one of the things that we talked about early in the project is presenting this to one of the sessions of the state legislature. Wayne Harper sits on the transportation board right now, so he's a friend of the city. I know he used to work here, and it could be a prime time to hit him up and say, hey, support this opportunity with the city. So there are some funding sources. It would be great. We've done about, 6 or 8 of these streets in major cities, from Park City to Murray to Salt Lake City, and it really does a big difference for the community, especially if you can change some zoning to allow economic development to happen and whatnot. But if you put the first foot forward, commercial development will come. So that's essentially my presentation. What can I do for questions?
Could you go back to the slide that showed the funding required?
Sure, right here, right?
And are you confident that the 1.34 million and the 2.4 would get the intersection and that section up to the railroad tracks, or close to the railroad tracks?
Yeah.
That would cover that?
Yeah, we can work. So we had some contingencies in there. So always when you put construction documents together, you get some of the unknown factors known. But we're pretty confident. Our numbers are fairly conservative to be able to get everything in for those 2 areas, yes.
Because we're getting some money next month from the quarter for quarter. And since the last time you did this presentation on the entire road, I've noticed that the area right in front of City Hall here from 78th is starting to show some real age on the concrete panels. So I believe we could get with UDOT and do some repair work and this at the same time. So I appreciate those numbers. As a phase 1, I think that we could get something something that the residents and the businesses would appreciate.
Oh, yeah, I think I live within a block or 2 of this road. I'm on it all the time. I would love it personally. It would be a wonderful thing for the city and for the residents here.
Now that we have numbers,
right? There you go.
Start that dialogue. I really appreciate that.
No problem. Any other questions?
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple requests and a question.
Yes.
Number 1, with this shorter presentation, could we get an electronic copy of this one? The version that we have does not include this slide.
Oh, sure. This is yours. Ray has it.
Perfect. And then the second request is also within the packet we had, looks like a much more comprehensive version, but it looked like a printed copy that had been scanned, so it's not too user-friendly, lost a lot of definition. If we could get both the short version and the full version, that would be appreciated.
Certainly.
You have those right? Yeah, okay.
And then the last is probably a question more for staff. Was there any particular reason this one was agendized as a public hearing rather than the business item? Just curious.
We did this as a business item previously, and so we need to go through a formal public hearing process with this. And so that's why we teed it up. It was just to fulfill those requirements.
Thank you.
Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. Just had a couple questions. If we can go back to the first slide. That one there.
Yes.
So we've talked about in previous council meetings since I've been on the council, we've talked about the microclimates on the trees. And this is similar, different. What makes this different from the microclimates like on 48th West or 90th South? Is it the grass?
Do you want me to help answer that?
Sure.
We're landscape architects, so that's one of the things we're passionate about. You need to have an 8-foot median to make a tree happy, and if you do have that ground plane, I'm sure Brian will back me up on this, ground plane that's cooler, that the tree likes, and you can get to, and you can fertilize and put mulch on, whatever. Trees love that. So the more area you can provide, we've actually got amendments, and we can consider a structural soil. Thing that's in what you do in the ground is what the tree loves, and we did City Creek, and those trees are lovely and booming. So we know what to do with the
Okay,
the
and-
trees happen.
Thank you. And I know trees want to be happy, and I want happy
Yes.
trees.
And we try to be.
I get that. It's also the question of, this is grass that needs to be mowed, and it's water that we've got to provide. Our city went through 6.6 billion gallons last calendar year.
Now, it doesn't have to be mown grass, it can be ornamental grasses, which are very drought tolerant.
Okay, and they're pedestrian friendly?
Oh, yes, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay, then that probably solves a lot of what my
Yes,
concerns
we wouldn't
were.
want to have you mow this. This would be painful.
And then, okay, yeah, that's good, because all I see here is more tractors and more people.
Yeah, right, no,
and
we don't want a lot
more
of
water.
equipment out there, for sure.
And then a couple, I think it was slide 3, had kind of an overview with some cutout, that one there.
Yes.
So the bottom picture there, are those cutouts for UTA buses? So as part of this change, kind of like what they did on Redwood Road and 5400 South in Taylorsville, they had some bus cutouts where the bus could pull over
Yes.
and take passengers on, let passengers off that didn't impede traffic. So this project from north of the city boundary to, how far did it go, 90th?
Well, it's both sides.
Both sides?
To the city, yeah.
So there would be cutouts so that as UTA does whatever they're going to do with bus service, we can accommodate that,
Yes.
feed into the track station, those kind of things.
Yes, they actually asked us, and they asked us to do it on the other side, not the light side, but the other side of traffic, so that they didn't have to wait with all the cars. They could get in, and when the traffic light stops, and get back out. So it's in the right, it's in the preferred spot.
Okay, and then my last question is related to what Councilmember McConaughey asked staff with the public hearing. I'm assuming the residents along Redwood Road were noticed that this is a public hearing? Do we know that?
No, they weren't specifically noticed. It was noticed in the paper.
Okay, notice in the paper? Okay. Is that what we normally do, Mark? Is we just notice through the paper on a big project like this for a public hearing, or not the residents?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, those are the only questions I had. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. May we go back to the pricing page, please?
Which one again?
The price
Oh,
page.
pricing. Thank you.
That one there.
Okay.
So as I look at this, help me understand, the areas that are in purple are the intersections.
Yes.
The areas in blue are businesses.
Yeah, generally it lines up the RDAs for each of the big intersections, so 70th, 78th, and 90th. So those are generally where the business start and stop, and the residences start as the edges, essentially.
Okay, so the yellow areas where the residents are.
Yes.
And there are not residents in the blue areas.
One or two here and there, but not generally.
So we would need to stop and start if we just do the blue area. If we did the yellow areas, we have to do stops and starts.
Yes,
Okay.
for sure. Blue would be easy.
Less likely.
Well, not less hard, let's just put it that way. Blue would be easier than the yellow, for sure.
Great. And then can you show me where the bicycle lanes are?
It's the one challenge with using the current streets. Let me go to that slide. Well, the one challenge is using the curb to curb, which is there's not really a transit bike lane. It's very narrow. We're proposing that it go to 13th West, because the other corners are more bicycle friendly. If you want to ride on a bike on Redwood Road, you're taking your life in your hands. There's just not.
I agree.
There's just not a cross section width, and we try to push a little further to get a bike lane, and UDOT's like, we are not going through that pain again. So if you want to ride slowly, you can ride on the multi-use path, which is 10 feet, which is accommodating a slower bike, but not a transit bike.
Which is what I would do, because Redwood Road is very dangerous for
Yes.
bicycles.
I will never ride on that street.
But the point I want to make is with the track station there, it would be nice if we could get from that track station with a bicycle
Yes.
to a lane over on 13th or 22nd or
Agreed.
Sugar Factory or somewhere that we could at least get that far.
A trail down the Bingham Creek would be wonderful.
Yeah,
to
something
connect
like
to.
that.
I know that's the plan I worked on historically. We got to get that pushed through.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Jay. That's a great presentation.
Perfect, thank you.
Looks good. Before we go to the public hearing, I would propose that the council, if there's any opposition, I'd like to hear it. The council allow myself and the city manager to go to UDOT and UTA I'm looking at a third, and a third funding for that section, the intersection of 7800 and Redwood, all the way to the tracks here. So it looks like it's about $3.5 million. And we could put some of that money from quarter for quarter towards that, which is not currently in the budget because we don't have it yet. Hear your opinions. Councilmember Burton.
If we went on that pricing page, if you notice, there's a little blue strip just to the north of 78th, and I would like to extend that as well to get that little piece in there to make it more continuity, so it doesn't feel like that intersection, that part's ugly.
So it'd be closer to $4 million.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I like the idea. I would say the third should be our fallback position, and we try and get more from UTA and UDOT for that, and try and have less funded. It is a UDOT road, after all. They should foot the bill for most of it. I would like that to be the bottom line and start higher.
Okay, we can do that. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I like how it looks, and I think it would be great. I would like us to see if we could do something legislatively with the state legislature. I like your starting point right here around City Hall, from 7705 South to Rosa Parks Drive. I assume that's the project you're looking at, Mayor?
Actually, clear to the tracks line.
Okay, to the tracks line. So I would be supportive. I would like to see, though, if UDOT can contribute, and we work with the legislature to see if we can get some state funding, since it is a state road. I think the city could be willing to participate at some level. But I also want to reemphasize that if we start here, we're kind of committing to do more. I don't know if that's an annual thing. I would love to see the whole road that way. I just don't know how to pay for it all. Thanks. That's all.
And I wouldn't propose to do that. I think that we need to go to the state legislature for the funding for the grand part, but we really need to do something for RDA across the street and the businesses associated. So I would like to start on a very small portion of the overall project and establish. And I think that based on what we did on 90th 3 years ago, working with UDOT, and was able to move that project up 3 years, I think there's some room that we could negotiate, if the council allow us to get this on the front burner rather than way on the back burner. And then I believe we have to take the rest to the legislature and get on the list. Many cities have got far more than we have, and we're far larger.
Yeah, I can support that.
That's how I'd approach that, if you don't mind. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be quick just to say I agree with the approach that you'd like to take here. I also think that if we already get started, that'll bump us ahead in priority of some of the others that are still in design. So similar to the approach we've taken with other projects, I very much like what you propose, so I would heartily support that. Thank you.
We'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, now would be the opportunity. Please come forward.
I'm Janet Erickson, and I've been a pedestrian a lot, and I ride the bus, and I don't want West Jordan to make the same mistake that West Valley did. If I want to catch a bus on 35th South, the trees block my way so that I can't see the bus until it gets right there at the bus stop. So just make sure those trees don't interfere with the pedestrians waiting for a bus. You have to see them at least two blocks before the bus comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Steve Jones, 3234 West, 6920 South. I guess I'm going to be your wet blanket. Right now in the presentation, I don't see anything that shows a comparison to what's existing there right now versus what is being proposed to put in. And that grinds me a little bit. I want to see what modifications are being done to that road. I'm really a strong proponent of, our city has very few roads that are going, major roads that are going east-west or north-south. And anytime we put in some of these some ways I call it kind of fluff. Yeah, it looks good, and it looks good in the shower in the morning, but it doesn't move traffic. And there's nothing that's going to kill your economic development worse than having a traffic jam in your front lawn. While I agree that the trees along the side would look nice, I would hope that we're not cutting into the 3 lanes that are existing there right now. That anything that we did would be outside that realm. And for sure, I don't like having trees down the middle of the road. It cuts my peripheral view of seeing what's going on around me. And when something does happen, there's no place to get off the road. So basically your car's stuck in the middle of traffic and basically it bottles everything up. My last comment is I always find it kind of amazing that somehow on these feel-good items we seem to find all the money in the world, but we somehow can't provide the protection with fire and police. We're still short. And somehow, somewhere, we're coming up with $24 million over the next couple of years to put trees in and do a few other things. And that kind of always when we look at economic development, when I look at how many gang officers we have or how many, things like that very much reflect what happens in our city. It just seems to me that we would be proactive in trying to keep those elements down. West Jordan has been in the news the last little while for having some pretty major crimes that seem to be rolling our way from, I hate to say it, from up north. And I would much prefer to see trees removed in the middle of this display right here. Put the trees down the side, push it out, put the things out so that it gets the buses out of the roads so the traffic can continue and not bring to a stop, and spend a little bit more money on things that I really would think would have benefit to the city, and that's the protection of the city. Thanks.
Just to be clear for the record, we added 2 police officers last year, and we're adding, if the budget's approved, we'll be adding police officers this year. But the funding that we're talking about has to go to roads. It can't be diverted to police officers. The quarter for quarter is for roads only. And yes, I agree with you, our east-west corridors need some treatment, so I'm not talking about taking the whole quarter for quarter for that. So, thank you. Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing for item 7A and return to the council. Councilmember Anderson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Is there, do we have to put trees down the center, or can we do other plant material? I don't think Taylorsville has trees in their center median, so I'm just wondering, are there different options for this center?
Please.
Taylorsville has trees. You go look at theirs. Murray has trees also. The critical thing is to make sure they're high branching trees so that you can get the visibility under there. If you do have, and that's what UDOT will allow, is a high branching tree that's a branch maybe 10 or so feet up so that you don't have an obstruction of view. Last thing you want is a low brancher that causes problems. Same with the bus stops. If you have a high branching upright tree, you can see the buses a lot easier than some of those trees you were talking about are trees that have lower branching. So if you just have the right plan, it works really well.
And is 10 feet high enough for buses and 18-wheelers
by the time
and box
it
trucks?
branches and by the time it gets to where a bus can hit it, we can pick trees that work for all that. And we can work with parks to make sure that they're limbed up or whatever. I mean, if you don't limb them up, the buses will limb them up.
Okay.
So, or a garbage truck will limb them up also. But yeah, we can pick trees and customize them to fit the mold. But I'm telling you, with the trees in the median, it's going to just change the whole look and feel of that street. We'll go to some of these other cities that have done it and look at the road here and the road in like Taylorsville and in Murray on State Street. They've got median planted also. They're different. It's a wonderful place.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'll highlight that this is a study and not necessarily a plan. So this gives us a starting point. So having said that, I move that we approve the Redwood Road Streetscape study.
I have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Burton,
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey,
Aye.
Councilmember Newton,
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Public hearing item 7B. I have a question for our city attorney. This is probably going to be a long item. Can we hold the public hearing and then postpone the discussion till the end of the meeting on the item? Allow the public to speak on the item and express anything they have, then postpone the discussion from the council till the end of the meeting?
There's nothing wrong with that because you have advertised you would continue with the public hearing. If you push the public hearing to a different part of the night, that would be a problem. But if you had the public hearing right now, then allowed, I suppose, jumping forward to items and business items in 8, I suspect is what you're talking about.
Yeah, just because I think there's people here to hear those 2 items, and we could go on a long time from the council discussion on the budget, I believe. I'm not sure. I hope not, but I'm thinking so.
There's nothing wrong with what you're proposing, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Public hearing item 7B, receive public input and consider for approval Resolution 17-105, approving the final budgets for the general fund, the special revenue funds, the capital project funds, the enterprise funds, and the internal service funds for the fiscal year 2017-2018. Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. We gave this to the council several weeks ago. It is a balanced budget, and the council did approve it as a tentative working document. We have until the 22nd of June to approve this, so you still have another week if you want to have other meetings to actually do an approval on it. So.
Thank you. I will now open the public hearing for item 7B. If you're here to speak on this item, now would be the opportunity. This is the budget. What's that? No one did. No. Excuse me, she did, but she spoke already on the item. And she left. Okay, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing for item 7B. And we will now postpone the discussion on item 7B till after the final business item, which is 8C. And we will now move to business item 8A, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 17-11, amending the general land future land use map amendments for .88 acres for property located at 1085 West, 90th South, from professional office to low-density residential, and rezone from A5 agricultural 5-acre lots to R112 single-family residential 12,000 square foot minimum lots zone. River Oaks Estates, LC, Robert Barris, applicant. Ray?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This item came before you back in February of this year. Again, it's a request to rezone the property from an A5 zone to an R112F zoning district to accommodate a 3-lot single-family residential subdivision. The applicant was also requesting to amend the future land use map of the general plan just to simply reflect the zoning that is proposed. This is just an aerial photograph showing the property. To refresh your memory, this is coming up 90th South, top of the hill. The area is, in the middle here, is just basically single-family residential lots that are used for agricultural purposes as well. At that meeting in February, the city council voted to continue the item. As you may recall, again, this is the property right here. The property was designated on the future land use map as professional office. Shortly after this rezoning came into play, we did get another request or petition from the neighbors that surround the subject property located here. They also submitted a rezoning application, and that was ultimately changed from A5 to professional office. You wanted us to take a look at that, whether to extend that low-density residential to the north, but that rezoning request kind of set in concrete the professional office zoning designation. This item did go before the Planning Commission. Planning Commission looked at it and recommended denial of it. I think there are a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's located on a major arterial street. It would kind of be an island of low-density residential surrounded by professional office and very high residential. And it wasn't really connected to that area, with the exception of that road to the low-density residential to the south. So again, at your last meeting, the item was tabled. We did hold a public hearing. The public hearing was closed, and this is before you tonight as a business item.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you tell me what the zoning is currently there? This shows as professional office where it is, but right where it is now is still multifamily. Is that correct?
It's currently zoned A5. The property itself, up here on the overhead, the area that's in the blue shows the area that was zoned as professional office by the city council. This area right here still remains A5.
Okay, so everything outside of that area is professional office.
And everything to the east is in a
And to the east is high density, right?
It's a planned community. It's an apartment complex.
Okay. So directly, does this include that house that's there now on the corner of 90th?
Yes, that house is located right where that G, right where that G is. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Would you like to speak? Please.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, and staff. I appreciate you lending the time for me to come here. I've been coming here for 16 years. I did the River Oaks subdivision, and the whole reason I'm here tonight is because of the River Oaks subdivision. It took 4 years to get River Oaks through staff and planning in the council. And one of the biggest reasons it was is because the city had a bond on this road going into River Oaks, the bond from the apartment. For whatever reason, the city chose not to go after the bond to improve that road, and they placed that burden on my back. And in order for me to do my development, I had to reach out and dig into my pocket to do that. So about 14 years ago, I had to pay $550,000 to buy that piece of property so I could sliver off a small piece right in the road. And then I had to spend another $550,000 to put the road and the wall in. And so I spent over $1.1 million putting the improvements in to go into River Oaks, which was already bonded for by the River Oaks Apartments. That's the reason I'm here. Immediately after that, while I'm doing the improvements, I came back to staff and I asked, can I put 4 water meters and sewer lines into this property so I can come back and develop it? This is a rundown home. I wanted to make it nice. I wanted it to be a nice place coming into the subdivision I just built. I got permission from staff to do that. I went in and placed onto this property 4 water meters and 4 sewer laterals so that I could develop it down the road. After I got done with River Oaks about 11 years ago, I came back to staff, and I've been coming back every year and sometimes twice a year ever since. And about a year and a half ago, right before Tom Burdette quit, and when you guys were rezoning this, I came to meeting frustrated because you guys wanted to overlay a PO zone and I didn't get the information on it, and I came to oppose it and all the neighbors did. Tom asked if he would meet with me and come and meet with staff after that, and I did. I was so happy for that. I come and met with staff. I laid out my design that I've been bringing to you guys for all these years. It was 4 lots. During that meeting, I was told again, over and over, we can't support it. And I said, this time, I said, what would you support? Staff said, if you'll change it to 3 lots, we'll give you the support of staff. And so I did that. I changed it, and that's why I'm here today. So I surveyed the property, I redesigned the property, engineered it, and I brought it back to staff. And during that time, there's been a lot of going back and forth. Staff doesn't like it, the Planning Commission doesn't like it, and I'm actually going to be bold enough to think the council probably doesn't like it. And I respect that, I don't have a problem with that. I would like to get the eyesore off that property, but there's nothing I can do without trying to get just a little bit of my investment back that wasn't my responsibility in the first place. That's the whole reason that Rob is here today. I'm just trying to maximize what I had to put in, which should have been the responsibility of somebody else. And preferably if the city had stood up to River Oaks Apartments and followed through on their bond that was placed with you, I wouldn't be here today. That road would be improved and I wouldn't have to do anything. But I'm glad I have a chance to talk to you. Now, the neighbors got together next to me over the last couple of months, and in the process of less than 60 days, they made an application with the city, and they came through Planning Commission and through City Council. And I believe it was unanimous, and they got professional office zoning. I was not called from the neighbors, and I'm okay with that. They didn't include me. I wasn't called from staff. I wasn't included in that. In fact, I didn't get a letter from the city, and I've talked about this for the meetings. I found out about 2 hours before the meeting and came up so I could see what was going on. Now again, I'm trying to maximize my value of my property. That's my only intention. And I understand where the city stands on that, and if the city doesn't want the 3 lots, I respect that. I respect staff and I respect the planning and the process. I'm trying to get a return on my best investment. Now, through the neighbors that I've talked to, after the PO zone came through about 2 months ago, somebody came in for a second time in 3 years and said, hey, we're going to offer a lot of money on this property. I talked to people over the last day or two, and it hasn't materialized. Somebody wants to buy all that property, the whole chunk of it, and it's been telling the neighbors over there, we'd like to buy it. Nobody's called me. Nobody's reached out to me, but they've reached out to all the other neighbors, supposedly. If they want to go in and put professional offices, I've heard the numbers that they're offering the other people. I will jump up and down and sell to them because it's more money than I could get for these 3 lots. I will support that. I will support the PO zone. But what I'm afraid of is this happened 3 years ago, the exact same thing. And it happened for about 3 or 4 months. It rose and then it disappeared. I'm afraid that's what's going to happen right now. I'm afraid that this is showing signs that someone's coming in. They're offering a lot of money, and I do developing, and I can't see the amount of money that they're offering for all these lots, how they can do a project unless it's a hospital or an Instacare or something like that. There's no way they can speculate at that amount and do a speculation on professional office. I would ask the council for permission to table this for a period of time. I don't know if the city attorney knows off the top of your head, can you table this for 6 months? I would ask for no more than 12 months, but I don't want to keep spending money, and I have a buyer that would buy my property and a couple of neighbors' property, but I don't want to spend the money to keep doing application after application after application. I'm asking for something that's probably outside of the box and maybe not even appropriate, but if we could find a way to table this, so if this buyer comes to fruition and he wants to buy everybody, I'll sell. I'll be the happiest person in the world, and I think the city would, and I think the staff would. But if he doesn't come to fruition in 6 to 8 months, I'd like to come and make application again. I have a buyer that would like to buy my property, and he has a couple of options. This is one of them, and he has another option too that would be good too and improve that side. So that's why I'm here, and That's all. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I just need to allow our city manager, or excuse me, our city attorney to speak for a moment.
No, I'd just like to indicate on the record that all of the appropriate notices were sent to the property owners as well as the applicant on the statement that he didn't get notice. I would take exception with that and would indicate that our records show that he did.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Last time this came forward, there was a motion to deny. I had seconded that, then withdrew that, instead favoring the idea of tabling. Being sympathetic to the background behind how we got to this point and all of the history and work that's gone into this, I didn't want to offer an outright denial if there was potential that we might find something a little bit more feasible. I'm still of the same mindset as last time. There are 3 particular criteria I don't feel have been met to justify a rezone. But if the applicant would prefer that we table this, I would be happy to make the similar motion as last time and move that we table this to a date uncertain.
You have the floor.
That was the motion.
Okay.
I would second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by...
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mayor. Tabling without a date would be difficult to justify later. If we had some events tied to it, or even make it a year, something of at least parameters that we know will bring it back.
So I'll amend the motion that we table this to a date no later than our second meeting in June 2018.
I will second that.
Thank you, sir.
So we have an amended motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Newton. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one quick question for staff. It's often that we get a zoning request that comes through and we approve a zoning that is different than what's on the request. For example, we'll get, in our last meeting, we had an R322 or something like that, and we approved R318 or 20. Would it be possible for us to approve a zoning tonight of a PO zone here, just hypothetically?
Yes.
It would be?
It's a legislative act, so yes, you can make that call.
Okay. Not saying I necessarily want to do that necessarily, but the applicant said he was open to it. It fits the neighborhood, so I think that might not be a bad way to go, but with the motion on the table, I'll defer for right now.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to suggest that I would be in opposition to the hypothetical just because my primary concern is the applicant's been here through the process and there's a number of fees that have to be paid. So if at some point in the future it looks like, oh, maybe it's not PO, but maybe this is going to go PC instead, there would have to be another process to start. So I'd rather let him prevent him from having to pay again for something if he's not 100% sure that's the direction that he wants to go. So I would prefer to remain with the tabling to no later than second meeting of next year.
I will speak in favor of the motion. I would have been in favor of putting 12,000 square foot lots here as well and getting rid of since the applicant is willing to table this, I will support the motion. Let's vote.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Newton.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Item 8B, discussion and possible action regarding Resolution 17-106, setting the 2017 property tax rate for the city of West Jordan. Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. This is an integral part of the budget process of setting the rate for property tax. Without having a truth and taxation meeting, we're basically saying whatever the county comes up with based on the new housing that's been in the next year or the previous 12 months, we'll take the maximum that they will come up with. So we don't know what that number is. It doesn't affect the budget. We're basically saying, and we're trying to, during the budget, guess at that number, but once we have it, that number does come from the county. So passing this doesn't affect the budget if you go back and change any changes in that.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Since we have not had any conversation, nor does there appear to be any intent to attempt to raise the property tax rate, I move to adopt Resolution 17-106, setting the 2017 property tax rate at a rate not to exceed the certified rate to be determined by Salt Lake County.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification, we did have a truth and taxation hearing approved, or a motion to schedule one that passed not long ago. I haven't heard any motion or any rescinding of that, so I was just confused.
I still plan to do that. I just don't know when I will do that yet. So that's just open at this point. I don't want to schedule that now.
Melanie's having a heart attack.
When the council, if a council chooses to have a truth and taxation hearing, they must make a motion during their June meeting stating that they will move forward with the tentative budget that's Mark's, and then they will schedule a truth and taxation hearing sometime in August. They have to be held in August by state law, and they are scheduled by Salt Lake County. So you have to make a motion before the 22nd of June if you're going to have a truth and taxation hearing, and then the county sets the date for us. Does that make sense?
That does. So I will not be making that motion this
Okay.
year.
I will be speaking against the motion. I'm still in memory of the discussion of looking at lowering the property tax rate by 1% that the council approved back, or was in supportive of back a couple months ago. I still would like to see that slight lowering of the tax rate to, which doesn't require a truth and taxation hearing, to lower a tax rate to help with spurring more economic development. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for staff. There was a news story recently about Salt Lake City and their budget process, and that they were caught surprised by new state rules about property taxes, and that they were facing a $1 million shortfall that they weren't anticipating. Are we aware of those rules? Are those rules figured into the budget that we will have before us here momentarily? And are we going to be facing a similar shortfall?
I don't know the detail of that, and I don't know if the bill has been on that or not, but I didn't remember, I didn't see the article.
That makes me nervous.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Newton.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Jacob.
Clarification, did Councilmember Newton vote aye?
He did.
Okay, thank you, I just didn't hear it. No.
Mayor Rolfe.
No.
Councilmember Burton.
No.
The vote fails 3-3.
We have to have action on this tonight for the 22nd, right?
Explain more what you're thinking.
Well, yeah, you weren't on the council when we discussed this before. I just felt like to stimulate and send a message to the business community that would be coming to the 1,700 acres and other areas that we've reserved for business, a real tool for economic development would be similar to what South Jordan did last year, was to lower the tax rate slightly. Doesn't amount to a lot of loss in the income. If I remember right, it's less than $300,000 on the property tax rate to the city. But it sends a message that we are trying to help establish both business and help our residents as well by a 1% decrease in the tax rate. Councilmember Anderson.
Maybe it would be helpful. I would like, number one, to have a 5-minute recess, and number two is I would like to maybe have move to item 8C after the recess, and then come back and have the budget discussion, because I think the budget discussion will help us set the certified tax rate. So that's what my suggestion is 5-minute recess, or 5-minute recess, 8C, budget, certified tax rate. Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Councilmember Anderson and a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Burton.
Mayor, are you planning to make a motion for that tax reduction tonight?
I am.
Okay.
Since it failed. And if I could give my opinion, if you'd allow me, I think just reverse of what Councilmember Anderson stated, I would like to see the tax rate set and then work to that end with the budget.
And that's kind of where I was going, so I would like to move into that before the budget instead of after, so I would be in opposition.
We have a motion on the floor. Let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
No.
Councilmember Newton?
No.
Mayor Rolfe?
No.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
The vote fails 3-3.
I move to set the property tax rate for the city of West Jordan for 2017 at 1% below the existing tax rate.
I'll second.
A motion by Mayor Rolfe, a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Newton.
I'm looking at property tax income of somewhere between 12 and 13 million. Does that sound right?
That's about right.
In which case we'd be talking about 120, 130,000 reduction.
I knew it was less than 300.
Okay.
I had the exact amount last time.
Okay, thank you. I can support that. Thank you.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. In theory, I support this as well. However, in practicality, when we don't know what our property tax revenues are going to be because we're unfamiliar with the changes that caught Salt Lake City with their pants down, I would not be supportive at this time. However, I am supportive of the idea. I just think we need more clarification on our property tax numbers before we get too deep into this. Thanks.
We're always in flux because the property tax is always 2 months behind the discussion point. So, Councilmember Anderson.
Yeah, just for clarification, you'd mentioned in your motion a 1% decrease from the current tax rate, or is it a 1% decrease from what the Salt Lake County is proposing or would announce for our certified tax rate for next fiscal year?
I would like to make that clarification that I'm talking about the tax rate that the county will come up with in the next few days here.
All right, thank you.
Let's vote. Oh, excuse me, Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I was a little bit slow there. I'll be in opposition to the motion, primarily because It sends a good message, but it'll send a good message to business, but I wonder about the message that it'll send to residents. I wonder if it'll send a message that we feel like we're providing all the services that they've requested, and we have enough funding to cover all of the different things that they've brought up. I know that tonight there were some things brought up about streetscapes, and frankly, as I go through the projected revenues, I don't think our revenues are quite going to match up with what was on that paper. So as I'm looking at a $120,000 decrease, it works out to about $1 per resident, roughly, within the city. And I think from a resident perspective, while, yes, that does send a good message, I think there's more services and more that we can provide to the residents that would be better if we just leave things where it's at rather than enact that reduction. So I'll be in opposition to that change at this point. Thank you.
Just to speak in favor of the motion, this would be the first of many, similar to what South Jordan has done and is doing. I think the tax base, of course, is broadened by economic development. Businesses pay 100% of their property tax. Residents get a 40% discount on theirs. And the residents do benefit, even though it's a small, this first increment is small. Residents benefit as well, but I think the message that's sent cannot be denied for the future. Let's vote.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Councilmember McConaughey?
No.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
No.
Vote fails 3-3.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try for a variation of the last two motions and just move that we take a 5-minute recess.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion of the motion. Seeing none. All in favor? Aye. Aye. 5-minute only. That's what I'm trying to do. South Jordan did it.
You're not sitting on that request for a speaker?
Not yet.
Oh, really?
Just now.
Yes. Twice.
I haven't seen it. It didn't come up on my. I watch right here. You would be in the queue if.
Wednesday, I said immediately, I saw you accepted it. But that was tentatively accepted it. And still, they're still looking for it. And I know you're aware of that, since you already don't know. Used to work with him and sometimes. Tell him to send me a letter. Maybe I should.
We're back on discussion of 8B. I believe we have to pass a rate by the 22nd, which our next meeting currently is the 28th. So. Mark, did you have a comment that I missed for some reason on my on the discussion we had?
Are you picking up my little?
I am right now. Yes.
Okay. No.
Now it's off again. Oh, you shut it off. Okay. All right. Councilmember Newton.
Mayor, I propose that we set the 2017 property tax rate for the city at the, not to exceed the rate that the county gives us as the certified rate.
We have a motion by Councilmember Newton and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Burton.
Is this any? You got your
No, now Chris is on.
I had a question to the motion as well.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to know if we set it at the rate right now, or if we say not to exceed what the county gives us, when the county comes back with a number, do we still have the option to lower it at that point, or are we stuck taking what they say? Because if the motion tonight says not to exceed, it seems like that could include current or a subsequent reduction.
I think we have to certify the rate, don't we? Even though we don't have the rate, we have to say that.
My understanding is you need to certify the rate tonight. Is that yours as well, Eric?
What will happen is, I think it's essentially as Councilmember McConaughey stated, is that we will pick a rate that does not exceed the certified tax rate. We can pick a rate that's lower than that.
Okay. I'm in favor of that motion.
But we still will need to have that established, what that rate is, by the 21st or prior to the June 22nd.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. What date does the county provide that actual rate to us?
Generally, we receive that in kind of the June 10th to 15th time frame.
So last week.
And I'll be checking again tomorrow to see if that's established. Up until the time that they say they're ready to go and we're ready to set our rate, they have it on the website, but it is kind of in a constant state of flux. But it has been rather consistent for several days at about 11.9 million something range, which is less than the 12.3 million that we're showing in the budget at this point, and we've discussed that in previous meetings that we will need to take the dollar amount that the county gives us unless we go propose a property tax increase.
Thank you.
I have a question. You're saying that they're setting it less than we've collected this year? The total? Because I've got the budget numbers, and we're at 12, currently today, we're at 12,496,170.77.
Well, okay, I may be addressing the issue and I may not be. We have two elements to our property tax. We have the general purpose property tax and we have a general obligation bond property tax element. That's, I think, roughly around 700 to 800,000 every year. Is it? Do you have any better number, Bill?
I think it's around 755.
Okay. And so what we've done so far is all of the property tax that we received so far this year has gone into that account in the general fund. But we, accounting-wise, need to move the 755,000 of that into a different fund, which is why right now it's showing, higher than what our projection is going to be. So there's a mechanical accounting move that needs to take place to shift the 750,000 over to the capital support fund to pay the debt service on that general obligation bond.
Yeah, that was explained to me today, but the year-to-date current still has 2 more months of property tax, which is not the real property that would increase, but there's 2 full months of property tax that are on vehicles, equipment, I mean, there's all kinds of things that are added, so it's going to be in excess of that. So I'm just trying to understand where they freeze it, where because it's beyond.
Well, the first point would be, yes, we likely will receive some additional revenue, but in previous years, the vast majority is collected through the November, December time frame.
I understand that.
So I wouldn't expect much additional revenue to come in there, more than, maybe $20,000 or $30,000. That might even be high.
Okay. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. So on page 7 of the general fund revenues on property taxes for the audited fiscal year 15-16 was $11.7 million. The adjusted budget for this year was $11.7 million. Our year-end estimate for this fiscal year is $11.8, so it's about $100,000 more. And we have a city manager recommended column, again, page 7, general fund revenues of $12,317,000. So my question is just what was reported a few days ago about Salt Lake City being surprised with a $1 million shortfall. I'll be close to the mic. But it talks about, in the news story, the revenues were smaller than expected because the Utah State Tax Commission changed how it calculates growth in property taxes. So we haven't adjusted for that because this is obviously fairly recent from what the city manager proposed to the council. So could that be the difference, that we're projecting some growth that doesn't now exist because of a change in a rule with the tax commission?
Yes, that could be. That is likely an element of that fits into the 12.3 million projection, and hence, okay. So we aren't involved in figuring out the new growth. The county does that, or the tax commission is, if they change the way that they do that. We see it on the very back end of just the number that they tell us and they give us for the new growth. So if indeed the 11.9 million that has been recently showing on the tax commission property tax website holds, we would indeed be only getting roughly $100,000 to $200,000 of growth, which probably is less than we would have expected.
Right. So the difference here is what, 400,000 or so between year-end estimate of 11,008 to 12.3 is about a little over $500,000 difference. So we could have a reduction in property tax of $500,000, assuming that the county's numbers, which they haven't provided us a certified tax rate, so we're kind of just doing educated guessing, I guess. But that would give us a shortfall of $500,000, and we've been asked by administration that any dollar that we increase wouldn't have to decrease. So we're kind of saying if this goes to 11.9 on property tax, then we've got to find maybe $400,000 to cut somewhere to balance the budget.
In general, Yes, and we are, barring a change in that, in the number that the tax commission is coming up with in the county, we are going to be looking at that $11.9 million range number. So it will be a decrease from what's in here.
Okay, thank you.
In the $400,000 range.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of calculating, is about a $400,000 decrease if we go with the county's assumed number that you'd mentioned, which is about 11.9 as opposed to 12.3. So thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Newton.
Thank you. I just, hello. I was on, now I'm on.
Now you're back.
I love this. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're talking about the certified tax rate, and we can't change that. We can't increase that, so we can only decrease it. So what we ought to do is pass that rate like the motion we're at. And then we can worry about this other when we get to the budget.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I was going to say similar to what Councilmember Newton said, just kind of remind that the motion that was on the table was for approving the rate as it exists, and then coming back to discuss some of the other if necessary, and suggest moving on to the vote. If there's too much more conversation, I'd be happy to call the question, but I think it might be quicker just to move on to the vote.
We got one more council member in the queue. Councilmember Jacob, briefly.
Thank you, and I'll be very brief. Does the 11.9 million, if that's the number that holds, does that include projected growth for the coming year? That's built into that number, the projected new property?
According to the county, but not according to realistic.
No, it includes new growth that has occurred over the past year. I mean, essentially, new growth that occurred before January 1st.
Up until, okay, so it does not include the projected growth that we will collect on in the coming fiscal year?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Yes.
Mayor Ralph?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Item 8C, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 17-31, amending the 2009 West Jordan roundabouts in the city of West Jordan. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been on the council now about 8 months, 7 months, and I've done some checking and phone calls about different roundabouts. Obviously, I've traversed a number of them. I rode in a snowplow over the winter, and I guess the best way to describe it is I met a roundabout. And all this does is in checking with a couple other cities, they actually have policies. They don't do roundabouts on arterials, and I don't want to go that far. And I'm not an engineer, and I'm not proposing to be an engineer, but I do believe it falls under the purview of the city council for things such as look, feel, and manner. And so what this ordinance does, 1731, is it eliminates all approved roundabouts that are on the general plan, which is an assumed approval, and requires them to come before the city council on a case-by-case basis to put them on arterial streets. So it does nothing for collectors, it does nothing to residential streets. It simply is on arterials like 7800 South, prohibits them from being designed unless they come to the council. And I know we don't want to get into the micromanagement of what a city wants to do. What really drove this to me is the plan that was presented to me of putting several roundabouts on 7800 South between the one that's at Smith and U111. And my feeling is that that's too many roundabouts for that area if we're trying to recruit it for commercial development, economic development. And I don't mind roundabouts, I just don't want to see them on arterials personally. And that's what this resolution does. Now, it does have an exclusion so that those that have started construction by October 31st, I believe it was, would continue. Just trying to find where my date is. And basically, that's what this resolution does. I don't expect that there was, prior to October 1st, so on page 293 of your packet, section H, it doesn't apply to roundabouts or on arterial streets whose construction has begun prior to October 1st, 2017. And we've had dialogue with our public meeting with the Planning Commission about some ideas and thoughts we had with 7800 South for future growth and a possible benefit to the city. And so that's what my resolution proposes, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm supportive of most of the resolution. There are two changes I would propose. Both of them are actually in section H. So this is on page 5 of the electronic standalone version. Roundabouts on arterial streets that have been included in the city's adopted general plan must still receive approval of the must still receive approval of the city council as outlined in this section prior to their construction. I want to take out prior to their construction because sometimes on occasion something's been brought to us saying, okay, we're ready to break ground, the engineering's been done, design's been done, everything's finished. I want to stop that prior. So I would drop that last part of the statement, and I would also suggest that that approval should be given as a resolution by the council. So I would change that last part of that to roundabouts on arterial streets that have been included in the city's adopted general plan must receive approval by the council in the form of a resolution, period. And then the second part, this kind of goes along with that first change, where you've got construction, if construction begins prior to October 1st, they're fair game. I would like to change that date to June 14th. Again, if something's already ready to go, they're ready to break ground, then fine, bring it, and we can make that change. And I don't anticipate staff would try and hurry and speed things through, but I would just like to start today going forward, not necessarily push back and say, well, starting October 1st, there's a new process. I'd rather just start it all today. So those would be my two changes that I would recommend for a motion when it comes time to be made. Thank you.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. My question for you is, those roundabouts on 78th and others, they were put in before I was on the council. Did the council not approve those? Did they get put in without any council oversight?
My understanding is that when the council adopts the general plan that would include roundabouts, that is a tacit approval of building those roundabouts.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition, I did have some conversations with staff regarding concerns I had about the light at 8200 South. And the comment I received from our traffic engineer was that when we had approved the budget, since that project was in the budget, that was the approval of that construction as well. So in a way we approved it, but in a way we didn't. We didn't explicitly say, yes, we want this and endorse this and would like this to be here. So that seems to be what this would change.
And if I may just add, what I've been told from city staff is that we purchased a pickup truck to plow 48th West, is what I was told, because the roundabout there has a tight circumference, and our bobtail, is that the middle truck is bobtail? And the 10-wheelers don't fit there. And so that's kind of the rationale behind this, is just to clarify how we want the look and the feel of the city. Personally, I think, and I'm not an engineer, I think ours are a smaller circumference, a smaller diameter than what you would see like in Daybreak. And I don't know if that's done for a cost savings or anything like that. And I'm not trying to stop roundabouts from the standpoint of traffic calming, efficiency, keep cars moving. This is about time, manner, place, specifically on arterial streets. And instead of banning them, it's just come to the council and we can see where we want them to look in the city.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to go back to Councilmember Burton's question, I believe those roundabouts on 7800 and 5600 around the Highlands, they were discussed by the council. I know they were discussed by the Planning Commission because I was on the Planning Commission. I believe they were discussed as part of the Highlands amendment that included that loop road and the Smiths development, because originally the Highlands had that Smiths facing 7800 South directly and not facing the corner. So I believe as that came up for an amendment to the Highlands Master Plan, the roundabouts were on that, and I remember I was at the city council meeting when they discussed it out in the cheap seats. And I remember that discussion. I remember the council having that discussion on those. So whether they specifically approved the roundabouts as such, no, but they were discussed and they were approved as part of the plan for that shopping center. So just to throw that out there. All in all, I'm in support of the direction and intent of this. I like it. Thanks.
I'm not a fan of roundabouts, but I do know they have a use. I am a licensed general engineer, but certainly not a traffic engineer, licensed traffic engineer. And I would urge the council to use an abundance of caution in overriding the professionals that do have the engineering degree for traffic. Again, I support it because I don't like them, but I think when non-professionals start dictating to professionals, we need to make sure that we have safeguards in the in any ordinance we change. So I don't know that I'm prepared to support this evening, although I like the dialogue, because I like you, think we have a few too many in certain areas. So that's my opinion. Councilmember Burton.
Because this does not eliminate or stop the construction of additional roundabouts, I will be in favor of that. However, I do have my concerns about them, particularly roundabouts. You lose your bike lanes when you get to a roundabout, and it's less safe for a bicycle than a normal intersection. So that needs to be taken into account, in my opinion.
Well, and if I may just speak to those, I don't want to get into the engineering and trying to dictate. I'm trying to be very cautious with the micromanaging, and that's why it's not a ban per se. The professionals can still come before the council and say, we believe in this area, this is a specific need. It's not an outright ban. We're not eliminating them. I just think we need to be cautious with where we put them in response to economic development, traffic patterns, those kind of things, as we look for a direction for different roads that we're improving and future land use and things like that. So I appreciate the comments and the dialogue. I do not want to pretend to be a traffic engineer, and that's why it's not a ban. But when the professionals come to us and say, this is the best place for a roundabout, and it fits with what we see as the city's direction, as time, manner, place, then we can support the professionals with the addition of the roundabout at that location.
But the way you've proposed it, it gives the council the final say, right? Not the professional. Okay. I just want to be clear on that. That's the way I understood it. Councilman McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Last quick comment that I'll make on this one is I wholeheartedly support and appreciate your comments about using an abundance of caution when it comes to some of these details. Very much appreciate that. The second thing I'll point out to those in the audience is that this is limited just to arterials. So we're not talking about collectors where we've used them frequently in the past and where they really can work well well, the traffic engineers can give you a fantastic list of reasons where they do work well. This only applies to those arterial streets, and it's taking a few extra moments to come to the council and explain why it's necessary. in their opinion. And sometimes there are options. I know with some of the different traffic configurations that have been discussed, the options are we could do a roundabout right now, or we could wait 2 years and do a stoplight. So sometimes there are various options, and rather than just going with the first, I think when those options are available, it's appropriate for the council to be included on those, because those have a long-term impact on the growth of the city. So I think that this proposal is focused clearly enough on just those items that, just those roundabouts that would be on those major arterials, and I think that's the only part that I'd really like a little bit additional communication from our traffic engineer before we go along with those recommendations. So I'm supportive. Thank you.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Not to belabor the point, but I agree with everything that's been said, I believe, pretty much so far. There are a lot of cities, I think every city has a traffic engineer, and there's a lot of cities that don't have any roundabouts, and definitely not as many as we have. So we just happen to have that traffic engineer. Just throwing that out there. Sandy City has a traffic engineer, and I was thinking the other day, I can't think of a single roundabout in Sandy City. My in-laws live in Sandy City. I go to Sandy City all the time, and I don't think that there's one in all of Sandy City. So just as an idea, I don't know how they function, because I don't know how cars move without roundabouts, but I don't think they have any. So.
Councilmember Anderson.
Would it be appropriate to make a resolution or a motion? Thank you. I move to approve ordinance 17-31, amending Title 8 Public Works, Public Ways and Property by adding regulations to the construction of roundabouts on city arterial streets, changing the sentence in the second paragraph of section H to read, roundabouts on arterial streets that have been included in the city's adopted general plan must still receive approval of the council in the form of a resolution, and changing the effective date to June 14th, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Anderson and a second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. Let's vote.
Whoops, I have to go to the second page. Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Mayor Roth?
No.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Newton?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-1.
Okay, returning back to item 8A, discussion of, 7B. Discussion of all of the budgets for the different funds. And I would ask, I hope we can bring up so that the public can see as well, like we did if we're discussing a sheet number, if we can bring it up on if we'll allow it to be brought up on the TV screen so that everyone can see what we're discussing for the items. It was working earlier. There it is now. So now the discussion is wide open. Really, it's the council's budgets at this point, so feel free. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Seeing as we just got the staff computer working, could we switch over to mine?
Sure.
Thank you. Yep, that one's me. All right, so Before we even talk about expenditures, I want to talk about revenues. There's some places where, as I was looking at what was proposed, I'm not sure I'm completely in alignment with what the projected revenues are. My thought process is that if we start with the revenues, then we have a good target as to how much is available to spend. From that point, we can go to expenses. This first tab, this is that general fund summary tab. And just to kind of help with reading, you've got the audited 15-16 amounts. I left out the initial budget for 16-17 and instead went with the projected 16-17. I added a couple columns in here to give me dollar and percent variance. We have the city manager's proposed numbers, and then I did a percent and dollar variance, and this is going off of the estimate. So you can see that's made it increase or decrease based off of what we expect this year to be. Over here, there's another column. Councilmember Newton and I were working together as we looked at some of these projections. And then over here, you can see the dollar variance and percent variance from our projections compared to the city managers, and then our projections compared to the prior year, or you could see that if it was a little bit bigger monitor. So that's just kind of the quick lay of the land for the spreadsheet. There's two portions. There is the revenue section down here, and you'll see the items that have been changed are highlighted in yellow. The items that have not changed are still just with the white background. Have not touched anything on the expenses side yet. Again, the thought was first to look at the revenues to see where we thought things would land, and then we could address the expenditures. If we come over here to the second tab, this is the one that goes more into detail. So you have the heading of taxes and all the different types of taxes. I'll walk through why we thought some of these would be a little bit different. And then down at the bottom, I'll just skip to the bottom line. As we come down here, total general fund revenues, the city manager estimated budget comes back with about $62 million. And then the budget, as we looked at the revenues and tried to take a best guess based on what had happened in prior years, we're thinking right about $59 million. So there's about a $2.9 million difference between the two. Any questions on the layout before I start talking through how we came up with some of these
Could you go back
changes?
to that again, the bottom, because it looked like it was 2 million.
2.9 is the difference.
58.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this 2.9 is the 58 less the 61.9. And this is formula driven, so it's a little bit different. So originally we had assumed 13 million in property tax would be the revenue that we would see. So we were actually thinking the bottom line would be about a $1.8 million difference. That revenue number was just changed on the fly during our conversation before when Mr. Okerlund was mentioning it might likely be closer to 11.9 million. So, talking through some of these, I'll just hit some of the highlights, some of the bigger ticket items. So this one with sales tax, we saw a 5% increase in sales tax last year, estimating another 7% here. I'm more comfortable with another 5% increase estimation, and that's putting us at about $360,000 less than what was out there, what was projected. Oh, let me go back to this big one. If we only have 11.9 million property tax, that's 400,000 less than what was being projected out there. So this is where the concerns started to set in that we might need to address some of the expenditures based on these revenues. Cable franchise tax, we saw a slight increase. Let me see. Cable franchise. The amount that was actually collected on the cable franchise tax was not coming close to this estimate number, so we were questioning that, if that was actually viable. So we toned down the projection on that to 500,000 to meet what we thought this year would actually be effective. Let me see if I've still got it up here. These are the updates that were emailed yesterday for the month of May. So I believe this is through May 2017. So let's see, franchise tax. Current year to date, we're at 5.6, pushing 5.7 million. So, am I looking at the right one? I might be mixing and matching.
You're talking about the You were talking about telecommunications, were you?
Cable franchise tax is what I had here. I might have mixed that title up.
Yeah.
Franchise.
The cable is listed as the franchise tax.
Okay.
I've got cable and franchise flipped around. Okay. Here, let me go over to some of these others. Let's go down. Some of these, like transient room tax, we're seeing 225% increase in the proposed budget. We have one additional hotel coming online, so I think that one might double, but not necessarily 225%.
We actually have two coming online, two extras. Two more hotels.
Okay, so maybe that one's more reasonable. So if we go and put that back at 90,000, I guess we could leave that at 100,000.
Marriott will be open by the 1st of September. They're hoping in August, but by the 1st of September.
Good. So we'll leave that one with what he projected. This one over here, business licenses. This one I'm wondering about because we've seen the decrease from 300,000 to 266. Given the direction that that's been going, I'm not so sure the likelihood of jumping back up to 270, so we're estimating a little bit lower at 220. Right over here, the rental application dwelling, where we saw a $100,000 decrease in this. Not so sure why, so putting this back at about 115 based on where we're at right now. Let's see, was that this page or was that? Sorry, I'm not as familiar with the with this PDF document as some of the others because this one's brand new. Anyway, I'll keep going. Building permits was another big ticket item in here. 1.8 has jumped up to 2.4 million, so we've seen a 30% increase. I'm not so sure about another double-digit increase, so I'm estimating maybe closer to 2.5 million on that one.
Just if we could address that, you've looked at the new budget and seen how far above the projected budget we are this year, right?
Building permits. Let me see, which page was that on?
Yeah, I gotta go to a different page here.
I'm not sure what building permits is lumped in with on this one. License and permits 2.4, we're currently at 2.5. Yeah, so 2.4. I believe when Councilmember Newton and I spoke about this when he brought up that we're about 2.5 right now. So we left that one at 2.5. The other ones we had questions with, site plan review seemed to be a big one, where we're jumping from 40,000 to projected at 188 under charges for service. We do see we do see kind of a decrease, 1.6 last year versus 1.2 this year. I'm not sure how that charges for service breaks out specifically for site plan review, but that seems like a huge jump. Not sure if that was an anomaly, but we left that at 190,000. That's something that we were really cautious about. And jump down here. Ambulance fees. This was another one. The other two big ones, or three big ones on here. There are two big ones. Ambulance fees. We've seen a steady trend where those have been decreasing. We saw 1.7 million, then we saw that decrease to 1.3. I think it's optimistic at 1.5, and I will call out, I know we've had changes to the way we're doing the interfacility transfers. That's called out on a separate line, estimated at 400,000. So I think we've still captured that there, but the increase from 1.3 to 1.7, that was an increase of over $400,000, which when things have been trending the other direction, that 33% increase seemed a bit high. The other one that seemed a little bit high was the court fines. They've been trending down for some time, estimating that they would jump from 1.2 million to 1.5 million seemed pretty high there, a $250,000 increase. I think I'd be more comfortable anticipating it kind of where it's at right now, the 2.5, or excuse me, the 1.25. Fines and forfeitures, you'll see right here. current year to date, we're just below 1.2. So I think that 1.25 is pretty fair. And then down here, when we start looking at ticket sales, for ticket sales, I'm assuming this is primarily the rodeo. I know we had a few nights that were sold out last year. So looking at right around $100,000. I'm not sure how we could bump that up to $150,000. That seems like quite a bit of a jump when we don't have much more capacity out there. Demolition Derby sees a bit of a jump. 20% was what was projected. I know last year we had a fair number of free seats that were given away, but since again, I'm not too sure where we'll end up on that one, so I'm doing just a little bit higher. I don't know about the double-digit increase. And then sponsors, this is another one where we were at $45,000. I'm not sure jumping to 110 is completely doable. Fantastic goal, good stretch goal.
We're over 80 now, so you know.
Wow.
The most ever in the history of West Jordan.
All right, well, let's change that. If we're over 80 now, maybe next year we'll be able to do a little better, 85. Whoa, 850, let's go with that one instead.
Problem solved.
So this is very much adjustable, so you can quickly change things on the fly to see where things come out. But that's how we came up with about $2.8 million in revenue that we're not so sure is going to materialize. And just for your benefit, the numbers I'm looking at down here, this 4.5 is the difference with the contributions, what's coming from this 4.5 includes the contribution from fund balance. So there's 1.6 million that shows we're coming from our fund balance. And then this other number, this 13 million, that's rough ballpark where we would need to be the maximum for our end of year fund balance that would put us at the 25% allowed by law. So that's 25% of the 52 million. Mr. Oakland gave us a little bit of an instruction on how that fund balance is calculated. All the intergovernmental charges are not excluded, the CEDAR funds, things like that. So 52 million is just roughly the number that we'd be looking at for total budget, and therefore the 25% would be the 13 million. So again, those are just really quick run through some of the concerns we have on revenue. So I'm concerned about the expenses, obviously, but I want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as what amount of revenue we're expecting to see, so that when we go to expenses, I know we had folks coming in saying, hey, we'd like to see additional improvements made on the streets. I know there's a number of us who have had specific items we'd like to see worked into the budget. And this is why I had a little bit of hesitation with the motion to lower the property tax, because from what I'm seeing, I'm not quite sure we're there. So I'll hold my comments at that for now.
I'd just like to comment that thanks for doing this. I think it's wonderful, but you remember the budget that was passed last year with a $7 million deficit? Yeah. And you can clearly see that we've made, by projections, we've made up that in this fiscal year. I just want to make sure that I think the numbers have been conservative to a fault, in my opinion, in the past. We were supposed to sell $7 million worth of property last year to balance the budget. I didn't vote for it, but that's what it was to balance the budget. It was requiring $7 million worth of real estate sales to balance it. And if you look at the numbers, the projected numbers, we've brought that back into line. Not all the way, but back into line. So I appreciate the work you did. It looks good. Well, it doesn't look, I mean, it looks okay. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilman McConaughey and Newton, for the work that you did. This is very insightful and impressive, and I can't imagine how many hours you put into it, so thank you for doing that and bringing the additional discussion to it. However, I would like to mention that, or ask, when you created these numbers, major adjustments, did you just do them off the numbers that you have shown up in here? Or did you do some research to see why those numbers are going up and down? Did you meet with the different departments to see where they're going up and down and why you expect them to make those changes? Because a couple that I'm familiar with, for example, on the permits, I would expect that one has gone up a lot this past year to continue to go up, especially with, we've got places like the View that comes on, and if Cosmos comes on, we will gain a lot more money in permits in there. The legislators didn't change the fact on the solar opportunities that are coming, and so they continue to get those incentives, and that it will be continue to be another great big one that we receive on the solar things that are coming up this year, and so that's another one that'll go. And then on the property tax, if we were to go with the mayor's plan and lower the property tax a little bit, if we got just one business that caught their attention to West Jordan, because it's not going to make a big difference dollar, but if one business catches that because the media puts it out or we put it out, it's a fantastic thing, and we get one additional business that we may not have gotten otherwise, we made that money plus some more back, and so our property tax will actually be higher if we lower it than it would be lower than we did. So I'll stop so you can talk now.
Thank you. And I'll first respond with a motion that we suspend the rule to allow the meeting to continue beyond 9 p.m.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey, second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion of the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The meeting is extended.
Thank you, I think. Yes and no are the shortest answers to your question. I did share these questions with Eric Okerlund, who's over the budget. There was a little bit of a miscommunication. Apparently, he was waiting for me to be here to meet with him at a certain time, and I was waiting to receive an email from him telling me what that time was. So we have missed each other in passing. So I am not hard set on any of these numbers that you see out here. If we want to kind of talk through and see what we as a council think is reasonable, if we believe the numbers are accurate that were put forth in the proposed city manager's budget, fantastic. If we want to make changes, everything's adjustable here, and we can see where do we land on revenue and then discuss whether or not we need to address expenses. So yes and no.
Councilmember Newton.
Let me address a couple of things. Elder McConaughey tells you where I'm at. Councilmember McConaughey and I actually worked these numbers separately, and we came up very, very similar. And it's looking at the budgets with looking at last year's, looking at what's come in this year, and looking at the differences where the projections seem to be out of line or not quite appropriate. And by doing that separately, we, like you said, we came up very, very close. And so I think our projections are valid, and I would rather be low on the revenue projections than over, because I don't want to have that negative like we're looking at this year, that we've got $2 million we're going to have to pull out of the fund balance to balance this year. So that's my concern, and I understand the mayor's concern that we don't do all the things that we need to do and want to do because it's not projected. But I think we have to be very, very careful about over projecting the revenues. So I am very trying to think of the proper word. I like where we're at and where Councilmember McConaughey and I have come to, and would suggest that we reduce those revenues by those amounts.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you. Quick question on the sales tax revenues, and this is for staff. With the state now collecting, or with Amazon specifically online, now collecting sales taxes on behalf of the state of Utah. Do we know how that's going to work out as far as those monies being distributed to the cities, or does the state just get to keep the whole 7% or whatever it is, or do we have any idea as far as how that works toward the city?
I'm not really familiar with that process. I don't know enough about it to give you a reasonable answer at this point.
Okay. The reason I ask is because sales tax revenues, supposedly nationwide, right? We're seeing stores go dark, et cetera, because of the Amazon effect is what we all call it. If the Amazon effect is not going to have an effect on sales taxes anymore because Amazon is now collecting it on behalf of the state of Utah, some would say with questionable legality, but nevertheless, it's happening. I'd like to know how that plays into our numbers so that we can accurately, or maybe not, project our sales tax numbers a little bit better. If we are getting money from the state / from Amazon on behalf, on behalf of us and the state, I would be okay with the sales tax revenue numbers that were projected by the city manager. I'm probably okay with them anyway, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Last year, according to the budget that we were given and tentatively adopted that includes the adjusted budget from last year and the year-end estimate for this year, the adjusted budget revenues from last year were $64 million. And the year-end estimate to collect is $54,770,000 in the general fund. That's a $10 million shortfall. Well, 9.5. And the expenses, as proposed, was $64 million as well. Yet the year-end projection is $59,263,000. So we are not on track for making up our budget deficit that was over the last year. In fact, we're $4.5 million in the hole projected for this current fiscal year, not next year. And that's according to the city manager budget. That's the general fund summary. It's on page 6. And that's just looking at the current year numbers. So I also, looking at the $68 million projected revenue for this year, including the unrestricted reserves, which is $11 million. I also have heartburn over that number, as I expressed 4 weeks ago when we adopted this, or when we were first presented this budget, and 2 weeks ago when we adopted it. I'm not sure exactly which numbers I want to change from basically what Councilman McNewton came up with. Sounds like it sounds like a Fig Newton you buy at McDonald's. I'm not sure which numbers we need to change, but there needs to be something in between. As you said, we've all got things that we'd like to see, other places we'd like to spend money. Yet, if we're not going to have the money that we're even projecting, we're either going to spend a lot more out of reserves or we're going to spend a lot less. Thanks.
Mark McElraith. Chief McElraith.
I don't know if it's appropriate to comment at this time just on the ambulance fees that came up. If that would be appropriate, Mayor, to...
You could, please.
I didn't catch Councilman McConaughey's, what is proposed, if it was a reduction in the 17-18 numbers that were in the budget.
So audited numbers for 15-16 showed 1.7 million. This
Correct.
year, the estimate showed 1.3. Proposed budget showed jumping back to 1.7. Given the downward trend, our guess was 1.5. And then again, the interfacilities transports were broken out separate. So between the two, you're looking at about 1.9 total for all those.
If I could just comment on the 1.3 that's in there, I think maybe Eric or, I didn't have much input in that number, but we believe in our offices, myself, Deputy Chief Peterson have looked at it, we think we'll be closer to 1.6 by the time the year end is out. Remember, those revenues can be 60 to 90 days out before we get them. So we think we'll be higher than the 1.3. The proposed number also is, we just got word that the Bureau of EMS, State of Utah sets those ambulance rates. There's an increase in 5%. So with the number that's in there for the ambulance fees, I think is very doable. The other one that you talked about, I misquoted it up there. It should be 911 transfers. And you're correct in saying that's a new program for us, but we have good data from the facility that we're going to, and we believe that 400,000 is a good number. So if that helps at all, but thanks for letting me make that.
Quick clarification on that one then. So the 1.6 that you're estimating is before the 5% increase in fees?
For this year's budget, where it says 1.3 is what they're estimating.
Yeah.
Yeah, the increase won't affect that.
Yeah, so the proposed, from the proposed budget we were given was showing 1.75.
Correct.
You're suggesting maybe 1.6, but then there was also 5%. So is it 5% above 1.6? Or does that 1.6 include the increase already?
No, the 1.75 would include that. So we submitted the 1.6, we got the information late, the city manager, where it says his proposal, that's why there's a difference there. So we're comfortable with the 1.75.
Suddenly the highlight disappears since it's not a difference.
Sorry. Mayor?
Yes.
Is it possible to go use Councilmember McConaughey's text here and go and have staff give you the reason we did each one of these numbers? Maybe that might help, and they can adjust them as we go.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
Okay. Let's start at the top.
Okay, if we start at the property tax number, during the subsequent time when we talked about the property tax before, I looked at the website, and the magic button has turned green now. So the county has set our property tax rate and our revenue, and it is the number is 11,980,614, which is approximately 340,000 less than the 12.317.
Can you read that one more time? I'm not sure I caught the middle.
Read the number.
Yeah, 11,987,614.
Yeah, 11,980,614.
Okay.
So it looks like the delinquent property tax, maybe we changed that one, I don't know, but it looks like about the same number. Well, okay, no, it looks like the previous number. That one, I'm not sure. I'm going to check my note to see if there's a reason why that is higher.
It was 5% reduction last year, and that's proposed a 30% increase this year.
Yeah, I believe, and traditionally we've kept that around the $250,000 budget. I don't know why it went up to 322.5 during the current budget year. So I would say 250,000 is probably a pretty good number there.
Okay.
Now, just as a general comment, this revenue projection and expenditure projection to a degree is a subjective practice. I dare say we could give the task to anyone in this room, and we'd all come up with a different number in the bottom line. So, given that background, there's different philosophies on how aggressive versus how conservative someone wants to be. So with the property tax, I mean, you can make an argument for 18,364. You can make an argument for 18 million. It all comes back and depends on how aggressive or conservative that you want to be. I mean, there is no correct number.
So quick question on this one. If we go to what collections are right now for sales tax, we're at 12.7. Quick clarification on how that's collected. Since this shows numbers were through May, do we only have 1 month of revenue additional remaining, or do we have 2 months? Earlier, there were comments about some items that had 2 months of revenue that would still be coming in.
I believe we have 3 months that still need to be booked in.
There's a 2-month lag of when we receive those revenues. So we should still receive June's revenue, payments in June, which are for April, payments in July, which are for May, and payments in August, which are for June.
So I guess the question is going to be, as we're looking at this, let me jump back. As we're looking at the year-to-date, does this include cash that was received from July 1st through now, or does it does it report accruals that are effective from July 1st that we may not receive till outside of the fiscal period?
I think the number you're going to want to look at is what we're forecasting for the current year is 17.256.
And this is where I had a little bit of heartburn, because I'm looking at the forecast saying 17.2 million, but current year to date is only 12.7. So we're looking almost.
Because we have 3 more months that need to be recorded.
Okay.
So cash received during July and August would actually get put back into this fiscal year.
Okay. That being the case, I'm going to change this back to the city manager's proposed number.
Sure, yeah.
I'd like to see more money pop up. That's kind of nice. Okay.
Cable franchise tax. Again, there's plenty of subjectivity into that. We have, actuals from the prior year, and then what our estimates were. I don't know if we have that on this page that's on the screen right now. But again, according to the numbers at the time, we weren't really putting any kind of increase on the cable franchise tax versus what was estimated back in March for this year.
Looking at this, this is where I was getting a little bit thrown off. So I took the numbers from the proposed budget. Cable franchise tax, you can see the roughly 550,000. But when we're looking at the financial report for May, franchise tax, we're looking, estimated 6 million, 7 million right here for the approved budget. What exactly is this one? Since this franchise taxes doesn't tie straight to cable.
The franchise taxes, on that list is the sum of cable and utility.
So I have a question for you. With the growing number of residents, how are we tracking using more utilities? How are we continually tracking down? Is the rate gone down or something, or what's? It's a physical impossibility to add 400 homes and businesses that are using utilities unless the rate is changing, not to be gaining each year. So can you explain why? Is the rate changing, or?
I believe I can explain that. I believe there are 3 primary elements that make up that that revenue, or especially changes from year to year in that revenue. One is new growth, additional accounts. One would be changes in the rates that the providers, instigate, and one that's really quite significant is weather patterns, climate patterns. If we have an extremely cold winter, we're going to get additional revenue over a regular year because they're buying more natural gas to heat their homes. If we have a significantly hotter summer than usual, we are going to be getting more on the electricity side, running air conditioners to cool homes, and vice versa. If we hit the other side, if we have a warm winter and a cool summer, then we could see some significant decreases in that. But other than significant growth and any major rate changes, I believe that's easily the biggest impact on that revenue. So it's very difficult to run any kind of trend on the utility franchise because anything can happen with the weather, and you got two sides to it, winter weather and summer weather.
Looks like it's trending lower, though.
Well, it came down from 6 million to 5.8, 5.9, so my thought would be maybe put the average of the two.
And again, this comes into the subjective nature of it, or the philosophy. Do we want to be conservative? Do we want to be aggressive?
So telecom tax, why did that drop 100,000 between last year and this year, but then we're expecting it to bounce back up by almost 120, 150? Excuse me, that's almost 200. There's no zero there. There's zeros in the other place.
Well, I haven't looked at the more recent year-end estimates for cable franchise, so I don't know if this old projection of 622 is still valid or not. If it is, then I think 624 is certainly appropriate.
So right now, year to date, we've got 800,000 in telecom, and then we're looking 1.051, which is a little bit lower than what was originally. So I think I would leave that one there then. What about motor vehicle taxes then?
Okay, we move to motor vehicle. Is that what you want to do? Again, that one I think can be, somewhat cyclical, so to speak. Wouldn't necessarily have to trend. I think traditionally that we just use that 1,150,000, which it does look like that's a little high relative to the last year and the current year projection.
Okay. In the interest of time, I'm thinking perhaps it's best if we just hit some of the bigger ticket items. So building permits. Let's look at that one. So we're projecting on the building permits, license and permits. So we're projecting, where is it, 2.8? And on here, that's going to be, I'm not sure I can single out building permits from that group. So I guess could you speak just to building permits specifically, why we would anticipate, I guess my concern on this one is how realistic is it to see 30% growth last year and another 15, 16% growth this year?
With the projects that are online, I think we're going to exceed that. The projects are going to be purchasing large projects. that are going to be, I think that's really easily quantified. I mean, again, all of it's educated guess, but based on being over $400,000 last year, more than budgeted, I don't think you can expect less this year with the building permits that are coming through the door. Bill Bailey would be better to describe that, although he's saying that nothing in the foreseeable future shows that we won't trend up.
Okay. So I'll leave that at the 2.8. I think that, not quite as comfortable with that, but I'll leave the 2.8 in there. Skip that, because that was only $4,000.
We did more than that this year, didn't we? 2.8? What did we do this year?
It doesn't break it out.
Made it at 2.4.
Yeah, the estimated budget shows 2.4, but the financials that were provided yesterday or last night don't have just building permits broken out. I think there might be a separate building permit report. Perhaps Councilmember Burton has that in hand.
I don't have that in hand, but I do have that in hand. And this is for the last 5 years.
Oh, that just counts though.
And that takes, it breaks it down to
Okay.
residential and commercial and industrial. It doesn't lump it all together.
But clearly, the licenses and permits, which include building permits, is $450,000 higher than what was estimated, based on what's been collected to date, or estimated to date, excuse me.
Let's jump down to fines and court fines, where we've seen that come from 1.3 down to 1.2. And then going back to this fines and forfeitures. We're estimating 1.3 for year end.
Which, by the way, is only 86% of the budget.
Yeah. So 1.3 is what we're estimating, which is still a decrease from what we saw last year, the old projection. So the new projection is a little bit higher than the old one that was out there, but we're still seeing a decrease. So I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the projected 20% increase in court fines there. I'd be more comfortable leaving it with basically where we're at right now, the 1.25. Is there anything to suggest that should be something different?
Mayor?
Yes.
We've initiated some different procedures, and we think that we're actually starting to increase that. Whether we hit the 1.5, I'm not sure. I'd feel more comfortable probably with a 1.35.
I feel more comfortable with the 1.35 than the initial proposed 1.5. So it's 150 lower, so yeah. And then down here, these really aren't terribly material. Still, bottom line, where we're ending up right now is about 1.6 million short. Now, I know there's always some play in the budget because there are some projects that certainly don't come to fruition, so there's some money that doesn't get expended there. I know there's also turnover with personnel, so there's some savings that we have there, but that's why I wanted to focus on the revenue side first to see what number we have. So I'm not, last year, even though the budget was although last year's budget wasn't balanced, we did have some play with those expenditures. So even though we had more on expenditures, we still came out okay in the end. So from where I'm at, I'd like to see us reduce those anticipated expenditures by about 1.5 million at this point. So we can keep playing with this, but I think its usefulness is pretty well spent. I don't.
The cable franchise should be put back.
I just have one question. Was you done, Chris? Sorry. I had one question, Eric. Did we spend, to get us to the 64 million that Councilmember Jacob described, the 64 million in our budget, did we actually spend the unrestricted reserves for green sheet items one time of 6.93,493 dollars in the fiscal year we're in right now, that we're at the end of? Because Well, it's revenue because we use unrestricted funds.
Well, okay, a big item that I think is the main part of the answer to your question is on our original budget and the original plans for the Public Works building was that all of the various funds that were affected by it, primarily general fund and enterprise funds, were going to contribute, I believe it was a total of $7.5 million, and we were going to bond, I think, for $7.5 million for a $15 million building. Since the adoption of the budget, the plans changed, and we bonded for the whole thing, and the cost went up. We changed the parameters of the building, but we did not do those transfers out, of which the general fund was slated to transfer about $4 million something, and use fund reserves, fund balance to do that. And it didn't happen.
That's
right,
by design. I want to get to. It did not happen because we ended up bonding for the full amount. Okay, so that's how I remembered it. I just wanted to be sure that happened because, for the record, I wanted to make sure that the $64 million is not the actual number. So thank you. I have one question for the council. Do you think we're going to get to the bottom of this tonight, being 9:35 right now, or do we need a whole night dedicated extra meeting designed for just the discussion of the budget? Councilmember Newton.
Yeah, I definitely think we need another night, especially to look at expenditures. I would like to try a motion, if I may, on the revenues.
You have the floor.
Let me propose that we change the revenues by, move down to that total. We reduce the revenues to the amount $60,313,260, which is a reduction of 1.596612, and go with these as Council Member McConaughey has indicated.
Councilmember McConaughey. We have a motion by Councilmember Newton as second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Burton.
I'm trying to decide if I'm comfortable dropping it, that amount. I would probably be more willing maybe to split the difference between the two and compromise in between there and drop it like 750, 800.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would just point out that the difference in revenues between last year and this year, we saw an increase of about 4.6 million. And the increase in revenues over last year, we're already showing an estimated 5.5 million increase. I'm not really comfortable going up much above that. That is a difference of what? That minus that, divided by that. So we're already looking 20% increase in revenues, which to me already feels really aggressive.
I like being a little more aggressive since we're in a building, we're in a real building, and if we really do capitalize on economic development, we could see sales tax revenue and other revenues jump. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one question for staff. It's the number that I don't see in the budget. I see that we projected property taxes at $11,714,422 for last year, and our year-end estimate is, or estimation is $11,807,000, which is really close. It means that we're good guessers. I'm wondering if that $11,714,422, is that the number that was set by the county, or is that the number that was set by the county and then we played with it a little bit?
No, that's the number that was set by the county. And I would have to go verify that again, but I can't imagine that it's not the number that was set by the county.
Thank you.
You said the 11,714,000?
Correct. That's the number that was the adjusted budget for general fund revenues for last year, for property taxes. For the current year, yeah.
But again, we don't know what the current year is actually going to be because and we know that we've collected $12,496,000 to date. We still got evidently 3 months to go. I thought it was just 2 months to go, but 3 months to go. There's not a lot of property tax that comes in, but there is some in those 3 months. Yeah, there is, but this is the actual money. I mean, you have to account for it before you can slide it, even though that's how we do it. You have to account for what comes in. Okay, we have a motion. Oh, Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Eric, so on some of these, it appears that there might be some timing differences. Like you mentioned, sales tax is a couple months behind. Are there others, I mean, like the communications tax? I'm assuming vehicle property tax is in arrears as well, comes in a couple months behind. Are there timing issues that we as a council are not taking into account with these numbers that Councilmember McConaughey and Newton have created?
The likely answer is yes. There are a few that I know about. As far as the motor vehicle taxes, I'm not sure what the lag on those is. I know as of several years ago, there was essentially a 45-day lag on the utility franchise taxes, so almost a 2-month lag on those, and I believe that is still the case. And there's several. There's the C Road money, which is kind of in its own little world. You know, that comes on a lag basis. We probably won't see our final payment for this year until August.
And so are you comfortable with areas that we've hit, that we've adjusted for some of these timing lags?
Well, that's kind of a tough question to answer, you know, in this setting without going in and evaluating it.
Right. And I understand doing budgeting myself at my employment, that a budget is an educated guess, all subjective. But I think what we're trying to do as a council is be responsive and put real numbers to it, which I think is something we need to do. So I think that's all I have at this point, depending on how the evening progresses.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I just looked up the number that was projected from last year from the city council minutes. That's what I have access to. The county gave us a number of $11,585,692. When I say last year, I mean the year that's almost over. $11,585,692. Our adjusted budget shows $11,714,422. It's about $130,000 difference that we're collecting that the county did not think we'd collect according to our amended budget a year ago. So just throwing that out there, if we threw the property taxes number a little bit higher as an estimate of what we will actually collect rather than what the county is projecting that we will collect.
Well, let me add something about the process and why that change occurred. If the 11.5 number was from our minutes of our June whatever meeting a year ago, and we didn't have the property tax yet, the certified tax rate wasn't set, we would have said, you know, here's our best guess right now at 11.5. When the tax commission and the county came up with our certified rate and our certified rate revenue, it then showed 11,714,422, and we would have adjusted that. And typically we would adjust that there and make an offsetting adjustment to the use of fund balance whether it's up or down. Some years, they give us a higher number than we had. Some years, they give us a lower number than
And
we
that's a
had.
valid point. Actually, reading the rest of the minutes, you're right, they have not yet given us the official rate
Okay.
as of that meeting when we adopted it last year, so. It was June 8th, by the way.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Anderson?
And just for clarification, this is to accept the revenue number.
From Councilmember Newton.
Yes, I'll say yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Burton?
No.
Councilmember Newton?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
The vote passes 5-1 in favor.
I move that we continue this discussion next Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Rolfe, a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question of about the format. Would it be something similar to this, or will this be more workshop session?
Informal, down in the community room.
Downstairs.
You want to start earlier?
Well, most people work. I don't know that you can get here before.
Yeah, it's more.
I mean, we can have it here, but I'd rather have the table set up, whichever is convenient. Just an informal meeting to discuss.
Well, the nice
You know,
thing
that's-
here is he can plug in and you can see it down there.
We can do that
Still
downstairs,
it,
too.
You have to do it in that location.
But we can do the same thing down in the community room.
Yeah, it can work.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Would there be refreshments at this?
I second it.
Could be. It's in the council rules. It's supposed to be every meeting.
I'll have a pizza here in about 15 minutes, just so you know I already ordered it. I thought we were going to be here all night.
Councilmember Anderson.
At this meeting next Wednesday that's being proposed, are we going to have all the departments there as well, or is it just going to be administration and our budget officer and the council? Who are we having
I think,
there?
in my opinion, department heads will have to be there because there may be many questions that come up in the expenditure side that will affect all departments. May affect all departments, so.
Soft serve machine.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Newton?
Aye.
Councilmember Anderson?
Sorry to ask a question. This is next Wednesday at 6
o'clock in the
p.m.
community
In
room.
the community room, yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacob?
No.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
The vote passes 5-1 in favor.
Will you have refreshments there?
Oh, I won't be there, but I'll make sure they.
Will you make sure they're there?
I'll be in Durango, Colorado, sorry.
Thank you. Lucky you.
Well, what's funny is I had my vacation the last week of June.
We need a motion to move to closed session for discussion of character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation, strategy sessions to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of water right or water shares, and we will adjourn from there. Councilmember Newton.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Newton, a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion to the motion. Let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Newton?
Aye.
Mayor Rolfe,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yep.
The vote passes 6 in favor.
We'll move to the fishbowl and we'll adjourn from there.
Can I ask a quick question now that we're done?
Please.
Do you guys want just refreshments? Do you want sandwiches? Do you want more of a meal? Do you want?
I would love to see a couple of those dessert trays from Neaters.
You know, if you eat a lot of sugar, you're